Chapter 782. This scene was too shocking. This scene was too shocking. Countless bolts of purple lightning intertwined. Each of them was at least as thick as an arm, and some were even thicker than a bucket. The lightning was so bright that it looked like thousands of lightning dragons were rolling, roaring and baring their fangs. Under the contrast of this sea of lightning, even the sun in the sky lost its splendor. All the experts were as insignificant as ants, causing people to feel a chill down their spines. How can he form so many divine thunders? Blood Ancestor Ali's voice trembled. Half of the immortal state warriors had been killed, and the Blood Ancestor was severely injured. How could the 5 Blood Ancestors hold the fort? Oh no! Oh no! Lightning again! Everyone's heart sank. They felt as if they had fallen into an abyss. For a moment, no one dared to fight with Jiang Tian. They only activated their body protection arts and quickly retreated. Then, an even more shocking scene unfolded. Blade! Jiang Tianyu stretched out his hand and actually caught the thunder condensed blade. A blade made of purple lightning formed in the air. It was a few hundred meters long. At this moment, the lightning that had been flickering in and out had strangely stopped and solidified. The edge of the blade was extremely sharp. It flickered with a cold light and gave people a very complicated feeling. The blade and the back of the blade seemed to have been weaved and intertwined with lightning dragons. It was like a peerless divine weapon used by the ancient god to break the chaos in Hongmeng. It was strangely beautiful. Master Kong, we're just here for show. Please let us go. If Grandmaster Jiang is willing to let me go, I will definitely pledge my allegiance to you and will no longer dare to become enemies with Grandmaster Jiang and the Tianqing sect. After the blade was formed, many immortal state warriors were terrified. Their legs gave out and they trembled. They almost knelt on the ground and begged for mercy. What's the use of begging? We can only escape if we kill Kong Teichu. Blood Ancestor Ali growled. Only a few blood patriarchs were able to hold on, but their expressions were still very grave. Blood Ancestor Kane's face was as gloomy as water, as if he was facing a great enemy. His hands formed hand seals, and his lips moved quickly as he chanted an incantation. Immediately, blood crystal armor formed and covered his face and body within a few breaths' time. These armors were covered with strange patterns and looked very simple and majestic. They looked like armors from the Middle Ages and did not belong to modern society. At the same time, his large hand reached into his chest and pulled out 5 or 6 magic treasures. He held them tightly in his hand, ready to activate them at any time. Nie Mingyuan, on the other hand, was unusually calm at this time. His sharp eyes stared at Jiang Tian, as if he wanted to thoroughly observe Jiang Tian's strength. Let you go? How could this be? If I let you off this time, you'll think that I, Kong Teichu, am weak and easily bullied. Jiang Tian did not say anything and simply drew his saber. Clang! The sharp long saber slashed across the sky like a dazzling river of lightning, sweeping toward the many experts. In an instant, many thunderbolts suddenly came to life and began to erupt again. It was as if giant dragons were awakening. The void trembled and the air exploded. It was as if the sky was about to collapse. Bang, bang, bang. Like the high priest of the Golden Temple in Mexico, the king of the Caucasian shamans in Russia, the butcher, the first awakened physique awakened in South America. There were dozens of godly state experts, but they were all burned into gas by the purple lightning saber's lightning blade in an instant. Even their divine souls and bodies disappeared into the world, leaving not even a trace of smoke behind. As for the overlords below the immortal state, they were already ants in Jiang Tian's eyes, so he didn't target them at all. However, when the blade swept across, the high temperature burned a few kilometers and the air exploded. The sea boiled and there was rain like steam rising. Those transcendent grandmasters were unable to resist at all, and they immediately turned into dry corpses or charcoal. You can't kill me. Seeing this, the #1 alchemist in New Zealand, the coppersmith, roared and took out a golden shield. This golden shield had an extraordinary origin and was very powerful. It was made by the only famous alchemist in the Middle Ages and had been refined by the 3 Pope. It had a history of more than 500 years and had been passed down to him. In history, the Pope had taken part in wars with this shield, and it could withstand the bombardment of the cannons. After testing, it was even able to withstand cluster missiles, and was one of the top Dharma treasures in Europe. The Almighty God will protect us. The Grand Divine Priest of the Green Leaf sect in the Middle East, who was a half-step saint and immortal deity, took out an old scripture, and his dry lips moved quickly as he murmured. Suddenly, the pages of the scripture bloomed like flowers and a sacred light gushed out. Strange golden words floated out like real gold. Every single word and picture was powerful enough to crush a half-divinity cultivator. After floating around for a while, they formed a protective barrier around him. Ali and the blood ancestors were frightened, and they took out their Dharma treasures, or formed a protective shield. The blood race had a strong body and was almost immortal. Even a Baron-level blood race wouldn't be afraid of bullets, and could heal their wounds in a few minutes. But in front of Jiang Tian, if anyone dared to think like that, if anyone dared to be so arrogant, then that person would be an idiot. In other words, the immortal body of the blood race was a joke in front of Jiang Tian. He could still kill them with one slash. Clank. In the blink of an eye, Jiang Tian's purple lightning blade had already swept through many overlords above the immortal state level. Bang! The coppersmith's golden shield, which could withstand cluster missiles, was shattered by Jiang Tian's blade like a piece of paper. The sharp shards pierced through him like the sharpest and most violent shrapnel, turning him into a sieve. It hurts! The coppersmith's shrill scream stopped abruptly, because he was also annihilated in the next second. The blade continued to sweep. Clank. The golden shield was shattered, and the Grand Divine Priest of the Green Leaf sect flew in the air like a fallen leaf. He was swept by the remaining heat of the lightning, and immediately turned into ashes. Ouch! Help me! Blood Ancestor Ali screamed. The 7 or 8 layers of defense on his body were directly shattered by the blade. His strong body, which could withstand artillery fire and strong lasers, exploded in an instant and turned into a crystal rain of flesh. Then, it immediately dried up and turned into charcoal and ashes that fell into the sea. Then the blade continued to sweep. In the shrill screams and screams, in the midst of begging and crying, in the midst of continuous explosions, the other blood ancestors, Blood Drinker Jim, Undead Emissary Damon, Blood Knight, Black Blood Ancestor Jack, Holy Wing Blood Ancestor. All of the blood ancestors exploded one after another like huge red fireworks. Then they turned into ashes and were annihilated. Even their blood souls were shredded into pieces. Lightning flashed for 3 kilometers, and the explosion of blood was as bright as fireworks. With only one slash, Jiang Tian killed 6 blood ancestors at the mortal deity level and defeated dozens of immortal state overlords. Oh my god! The power of this slash has surpassed that of an earth-level deity, and even a sky immortal. It's comparable to a real deity. Many of the overlords who were watching the battle were shocked. Their mouths were about to tear off their ears, and their eyes almost popped out of their sockets. Not to mention the legendary mortal deity saints. How powerful were the immortal state overlords? The divine powers of the immortal state overlords were earth-shattering. They were international giants who controlled a country and a sect and could talk to the heads of state on an equal footing. But now Ali had been crushed into pieces by Jiang Tian's blade. No, not even a piece of him was left. This was too terrifying. If this was not a miracle of a deity, then what could be called a miracle of a deity? The Taichu Thunderblade, the Jade Universe is clear for thousands of miles. Clear the sky, leave no one alive. Kong Taichu's slash is comparable to a large country's army on an expedition. It's even more powerful than a nuclear explosion. Master Red Boat shouted to the sky. His eyes were full of reverence as if he were a believer seeing a real deity. This was not an exaggeration at all. Back then, the European continent had sent hundreds of thousands of troops, and the Holy See and the Palace of Gods to hunt down the gathering of darkness for 10 years. But what was the result? They had only killed a dozen blood ancestors, but most of the blood ancestors were still intact. They had just gone into hibernation. Today, however, Jiang Tian had defeated 6 infamous blood forefathers with only one slash. How powerful was his battle prowess? Master Kang's slash can defeat thousands of troops. It has never been seen before, and it has shocked the world. Hera bowed deeply to Jiang Tian. Her face was full of admiration and ecstasy. Her beautiful face was glowing and her beautiful eyes were shining. The European Union had activated the Gathering of Darkness and abandoned the Palace of Gods in order to eliminate Kong Techu and Sidoni. The Gathering of Gods had taken revenge on the Palace of Gods. 2 main gods had fallen and hundreds of members had been killed. But the European Union had done nothing for the sake of their own interests. Hera had thought that there was no hope for revenge, and that Tianqing school was about to fall. She had never thought that Jiang Tian would be able to defeat the grand cultivators of the kindred with one slash, and almost exterminate the entire kindred. This was equivalent to avenging the Palace of Gods. How could she not worship Jiang Tian? How could she not be ecstatic and grateful? My people and brothers, Your Highness, why didn't you do anything? Seeing this, the blood ancestor Cain's face turned pale, and he exclaimed with a trembling voice. Now all the kindred had died except for him. This meant that all the senior members of the kindred on Earth had been killed by Jiang Tian, except for the small fries below the level of Duke and Marquis who hadn't participated in the battle. This kind of blow, this kind of disparity, was simply too great, too cruel. It was simply unacceptable. Cain, I think it's better to call you damned. Jiang Tian stepped in the air and sneered. His eyes were as sharp as knives. You're quite capable to be able to withstand one slash from me. All right, I'll take your life next. He clenched his hands and suddenly shook them. A purple lightning spear immediately formed between his fingers. This purple lightning spear was 300 meters long. It was like a giant lightning dragon that was filled with terrifying power. Master Kong, don't kill me. Do you know where Zhang Qianlei went? Cain waved his hand and shouted. Where did he go? Jiang Tian asked with concern. The murderous intent in his eyes faded a bit. Zhang Qianlei had gone to the sword vault before Jiang Tian. But Jiang Tian didn't find any trace of Zhang Qianlei along the way. He was dead and nowhere to be found. Jiang Tian had fought side by side with Zhang Qianlei several times and they had a good relationship, so he was worried about him. Chapter 783. If you don't kill me, I'll tell you. Otherwise, I won't tell you even if you beat me to death. I can destroy my divine soul. Cain said loudly. Haha, I, Kong Techu, will never be threatened. Go to hell. Jiang Tian was certainly concerned about Zhang Qianlei's safety. However, in Jiang Tian's opinion, as long as Zhang Qianlei's divine soul was not destroyed, even if his body died, Jiang Tian could recreate him. If you don't want to tell me, then take this secret to your grave. He sneered and stabbed with his spear. Suddenly, a large area of the void was annihilated, and streaks of purple lightning shot towards Cain. Crack. When the spear landed, Cain's blood crystal armor suddenly cracked open with shocking cracks. Many of Cain's secret techniques were also destroyed. His body was full of cracks, and he was sent flying more than 2,000 meters away with blood spurting out of his mouth. How is this possible? He's too powerful. I'm a sacred king. Cain kept vomiting blood, and his face changed drastically in disbelief. His blood crystal armor could withstand depleted uranium bombs and small nuclear weapons, and even Jiang Tian's spear couldn't withstand it. At this moment, he was extremely regretful. He had underestimated Jiang Tian's strength. He had thought that Jiang Tian was an alien, the reincarnation of a deity, but at this moment, he realized that he had seriously underestimated Jiang Tian's strength. How could such a person be trapped in the one-day confinement array? He also wanted to expel Tianqing school and turn Sidoni into the territory of the Covenant of Darkness. Now the kindred was about to be exterminated, and he was about to die. Cain, are you regretting it? Jiang Tian smiled faintly and said disdainfully. However, look at your kind and followers. They don't even have a chance to regret it. You should be content. Master Kong, I really regret it. Let me go this time. I can tell you where Zhang Qianlei is. At this moment, Cain was on the verge of tears. He was shocked and terrified. She was too arrogant. She thought that the vampires would be able to capture Sidoni with Niaming Yuan's help. But now, they had lost soldiers and generals and suffered heavy losses. If he was fully aware of Jiang Tian's strength, then he wouldn't have come. He would have continued to be the supreme blood ancestor, capturing a few living people every few days to suck their blood. He would have been free and happy. Jiang Tian die. Nie Mingyuan roared and finally made his move. Today I'm going to kill you to avenge my parents, Feng, and the Nie clan. Rumble. He stretched out his hand, and a black demonic palm blotted out the sky and covered an area of 1,000 meters in radius, heading straight for Jiang Tian. The power of this palm was too strong. Rumble. Huge waves surged to the sky, and fierce winds howled. A huge tsunami erupted. Those huge waves were more than 10 meters high, and had a destructive power that could destroy everything. Many large ships trembled, as if they were about to capsize. Many overlords of the Tianqing school were blown away. Ah, the demon king of prison has finally made his move. Some dark overlords who were hiding in the distance exclaimed. This palm is as powerful as a sky immortal. This time, Kong Teichu might not have 100% chance of winning. Situlei, the leader of the Hong sect, was a cunning man. He had run away as soon as the battle started. He was so excited that his eyes almost popped out of their sockets. The Demon King is immortal. We will win this battle. Calco, the ancestor of the grassland wolves, shouted. Just a moment ago, one of his arms was blown off by Jiang Tian's purple lightning blade. His son had also died at the hands of the Tianqing school. At this moment, he hated Jiang Tian to the core. No matter how powerful Kong Teichu is, he is just an ordinary human being. He is no match for the Demon King of prison. The Demon King's power is unparalleled. Once the demonic palm strikes, no one will be able to stop him. Victory! Victory! Seeing Nie Mingyuan attack Jiang Tian, many of the remaining members of the Senate waved their fists and cheered for him. Now Jiang Tian had made it clear that he was going to kill them all. They knelt down and begged for mercy. Nie Mingyuan was their only hope of survival. Master, you must win. Seeing the demonic palm covering the sky, Wu Qingtian's expression was grave, and he frowned. Watch out, Tang Linglong said seriously. Jiang Tian. Huang Linger's eyes were filled with concern and nervousness. Her body tensed up slightly. When everyone from the Tianqing sect saw this, a trace of seriousness appeared on their faces. Their hearts tightened as they clenched their fists. Nie Mingyuan was too powerful. Even though he was a few thousand meters away, he could still feel the terrifying pressure. This attack was comparable to that of a sky immortal sacred master, and far more powerful than the blood ancestor. It was also the most powerful opponent Jiang Tian had ever encountered. If my husband hadn't reached the foundation establishment level, he might have had a chance. But my husband has reached the foundation establishment level. Even 10 Nie Mingyuans are no match for him. Only Zhao Xueqing knew Jiang Tian's strength, and was full of confidence in him. She didn't care about Nie Mingyuan at all. Nie Mingyuan, you're just a clown. You want to fight with me? You're way too weak. Jiang Tian sneered and thrust his spear toward the sky. Boom. That huge demonic palm directly shattered. The fragments of the demonic palm fell from the sky like meteorites and smashed many ships of the Gathering of Darkness into pieces. Ha! Noticing this detail, Zhao Xueqing's eyes widened in astonishment. Her face changed slightly as she exclaimed softly. Generally speaking, any energy attack condensed by cultivators on Earth would explode uncontrollably once it was broken. However, Nie Mingyuan's demonic palm was not completely shattered after being penetrated by Jiang Tian's spear and hit by lightning and high temperature. Countless demonic inscriptions were intertwined on the demonic palm like a kind of law of heaven and earth, which could firmly control the demonic qi. It could be said that if it weren't for Jiang Tian, Nie Mingyuan would be invincible in this world in terms of talent, luck and physique. After all, it was the famous fiend body of purgatory that was 1 in a billion in the cultivation world. Only a few of them could be found even if the entire earth was turned upside down. However, some of the fragments of the demonic palm were completely destroyed and exploded uncontrollably. Immediately, as if a cluster of missiles had exploded, flames soared into the sky. The giant ships were torn apart and fell silent. The weapons and helicopters on them were reduced to piles of scrap metal. That's terrifying. It's just a fragment of the demonic palm, but it's already so powerful. Countless people exclaimed. Clang. Jiang Tian did not let Nie Mingyuan off after gaining the upper hand. He soared into the sky and thrust out the second spear. His speed surpassed the limit and pierced Nie Mingyuan's chest. Bang! The demonic qi shield around Nie Mingyuan was shattered. Nie Mingyuan, you are too weak. Jiang Tian stabbed at Nie Mingyuan for the third time as fast as lightning. The long-sleeved Taoist robe on Nie Mingyuan's body bloomed with bright light and formed a tough defense. This robe was from a sky immortal ancestral master of Dian Song. It was a high-grade spiritual robe, and could withstand 10 full-strength attacks from an earth-level deity. But now, under Jiang Tian's spear, the robe was shattered and the fragments were scattered in the air like butterflies. You should have died long ago. You have lived for so long. You should be satisfied. Jiang Tian sneered and shot out another spear. Bang! Nie Mingyuan spat out black blood and flew a few hundred meters away. There was a black hole where the spear hit him and many shocking cracks spread from the center to the rest of his body. Blood dripped along the cracks as if a high-quality porcelain was about to break. SDHH. Many powerful figures from the dark world were speechless. They could only take a deep breath of cold air. Nie Mingyuan's body was 1 in a million. During this period of time, he had plundered many Dharma treasures in the eastern and western worlds. But now Jiang Tian had almost destroyed them. Jiang Tian had reached the foundation establishment level, and the power he showed was too strong. He didn't use any moves at all, and the purple lightning spear had the power to destroy the world. Kong Teichu's strong return this time is really going to shock the world. An overlord exclaimed. Swish! Nie Mingyuan finally stabilized himself in the sky and spat out a mouthful of blood. His eyes widened as he roared angrily. Jiang Tian, you have successfully angered me. Fine, this demon lord will reveal his true form and fight with you. His voice was like thunder and echoed dozens of miles away. Roar! He roared to the sky and the blue veins and blood vessels on his neck bulged like dragons. Bang! His arm exploded, and sparkling flesh and blood flew in all directions. An arm covered in dark purple armor appeared. The armor was connected to the body, and several extremely sharp bone spikes pierced out, emitting a cold light. Boom! His legs exploded and so did his torso. A red and black mist spread, and a fiend god as tall as a mountain appeared. After the transformation, Nie Mingyuan was wearing a set of dark purple armor and 9 black fiends, snake heads, ghost heads, dragon heads and beast heads came out of his back. The 9 gigantic devil heads roared violently and malevolently as they danced in the air, tumbling about unpredictably as they underwent myriad changes in an instant. The fiend god's divine soul was so tall that it reached the clouds. Even the Taichu aircraft carrier and the other ships were like small boats under his huge body. The helicopters and fighter jets were like flies. However, his face was extremely handsome. The lines on his face were as if they had been chiseled by a knife and an axe. It was 80% similar to Nie Mingyuan's face, but there was a faint sense of evil. His eyes were full of hatred and seemed to be able to swallow the world. His lips were thin and he looked cruel and merciless. On top of his head, there were 2 long horns that curved in the shape of a spiral. Traces of blue lightning flashed between the 2 horns. Revenge. Revenge. Revenge for my parents and Feng. Revenge for the Nie family. Tears of blood came out of his eyes, and he was full of hatred. He stepped on the air and approached Jiang Tian. The armor on his body made clanging sounds, and every step he took caused the earth to shake and the mountains to shake. He's really a fiend god. A deity realm expert that was spectating the battle was terrified to the point his countenance went ghastly pale like paper, and his heart almost jumped out of his throat. The fiend god of hell looked like he could throw a mountain and destroy a city with a kick. His aura was so powerful that it was like a demonic god from the 9 Serenities hell. He didn't seem to be from this world at all. Can Master Kong still win? At this moment, even Hu Qingtian and the others were scared. They didn't have much confidence and felt uneasy. Clang! Nie Mingyuan reached out his hands and picked up a giant ship that was a few hundred meters long. He swung it like a giant club and smashed it at Jiang Tian. At this moment, the giant fiend god of hell and the ship was in the background. Jiang Tian was like a flying bee, and it seemed like he would be smashed into pieces in the next moment. Chapter 784. This scene was too shocking. Many people's eyes almost popped out of their sockets and their mouths were wide open, but they couldn't utter a word. No words could express their shock and astonishment at this time. A giant ship weighing more than 2,000 tons was smashed down by Nie Mingyuan, and the helicopters and transport planes on it slid down. It was as incredible as a Hollywood blockbuster. Even though they had seen it with their own eyes, it was still unreal. It was no exaggeration to say that such a terrifying force could easily destroy the army of a superpower. After all, the navy of a developed country didn't have many ships of this size. Haha, it's big but useless. Jiang Tian smiled coldly, dismissing and attacking. Clang. The huge purple lightning spear in his left hand swept horizontally, smashing the entire ship into countless pieces that fell into the sea like scrap metal. Swish. He slapped the sky-swallowing demon gourd with his right hand, and Little Black's flying sword turned into a ray of black light, and pierced through. Little Hay's flying sword sped up and instantly broke through 3 times the speed of sound. It reached Nie Mingyuan first and pierced through his chest. You can't kill me. I'm the fiend body of purgatory, the most powerful fiend body in the universe. Nie Mingyuan's roar was like thunder. His chest was stained with blood, but that bowl-sized wound was too small compared to his huge body. It was like a mosquito bite, not worth mentioning. You're too arrogant. Jiang Tian sneered and then said with a serious face, Evil can't defeat good and evil can't defeat God. Dharma form appear. At this moment, Jiang Tian's body emitted an infinite amount of golden light. It was so bright that people didn't dare to look at it directly. Boom. A gigantic figure that was several hundred meters tall appeared. It was wearing a high crown and a wide belt. 12 crowns hung down from it. It was wearing an emperor's robe with a pattern of 5 colored clouds and sea dragons. Lightning flashed in his eyes. He held the sun in one hand and the silver moon in the other. There was a bright sea of stars behind him, controlling the reincarnation of time. The sun and the moon came out together, and the sea of stars surged. At this moment, Jiang Tian looked incomparably dignified, as if he was an ancient god emperor who carried the sea of stars on his back, stepping on the clear sky of eternity, passing through millions and millions of years. What is this? Golden Body Dharma Idol, Golden Body Dharma Idol. Legend has it that it's the symbol of reaching the heavenly immortal or holy venerate level. Facing such a phenomenon, the grassland wolf Zuger and the other experts exclaimed in disbelief. Could it be that he is a real god? Blood ancestor Cain was scared silly. To everyone's astonishment, a member of the blood race who retreated a bit too slowly was immediately suppressed by the divine emperor's shadow. His aura declined and he turned into a pile of dried bones. It felt like hundreds of years had passed in an instant. Purple lightning eyes, sun and moon wheel, sea of stars, golden flame armor, and emperor's robe. These represented the 5 divine abilities of Jiang Tian's gunmetal divine body. Divine abilities were different from ordinary spells. They would evolve as Jiang Tian's cultivation base improved. After reaching the soul formation stage, Jiang Tian could shatter the sky with a single glance and age deities with a single finger. He could even turn back time to 100 years. At the moment, Jiang Tian had only reached the foundation establishment level, but he could only simulate some of these divine abilities. It wouldn't be a problem for him to kill Nie Mingyuan. At this moment, when everyone saw this scene, they were all shocked. Jiang Tian's formation was not inferior to Nie Mingyuan's at all. If Nie Mingyuan was said to be a devil god who had walked out of hell, that Jiang Tian was the emperor of the god race who descended from the 9 heavens. He stepped on the eternal blue sky, overlooking the sun, moon, and stars. No matter how strong you are, you'll die. Nie Mingyuan shouted. The 9 fiends waved and roared at the same time, letting out earth-shattering roars like wild beasts. Boom! With a flash of his body, he crossed a distance of several kilometers and flew toward Jiang Tian. Arg! 9 fiends destroy the world! He shouted angrily. The 9 demon heads danced wildly, extending hundreds of meters away from his back in all directions. Every demon was as big as a tank or as big as a small car. They roared ferociously, looking extremely terrifying and shocking. Then, the demon heads opened their bloody mouths, and their long necks suddenly bent. Suddenly, They were like 9 giant dragons that tried to bite Jiang Tian. Reincarnation of the sun and moon. Slash. Jiang Tian held the sun in one hand, and the silver moon in the other. He pushed the red sun and the silver moon out and slashed at the fiends. Crack! A head, together with a long dragon-like neck, was severed at the base. It fell into the sea, creating a world-shaking explosion and setting off monstrous waves like a tsunami. Nie Mingyuan howled miserably at the sky. His large hand, which was covered with bone spikes, suddenly slammed toward Jiang Tian's chest. This palm strike was accompanied by a torrential demonic aura. Heaven and earth changed color, and even the void turned pitch black as if it had been annihilated. If 10 mortal deities and earth-level deities were there, they would have been smashed into ashes. Clang! Jiang Tian didn't dodge. He took the attack with his body. He had reached the phenomenal success level of the gung metal divine body, and wasn't even afraid of nuclear weapons, let alone the fiend Qi. The moment Nie Mingyuan hit Jiang Tian, he immediately felt a violent rebounding force. His body uncontrollably flew up into the air, like a huge transformer being thrown away. Go to hell. Jiang Tian's eyes were filled with purple lightning. He grabbed with his hands and turned into a 1,000-meter-long lightning dragon. It rushed towards Nie Mingyuan and surrounded him. Rumble! Flames soared into the sky, and thunderbolts exploded, turning the entire sky into a state of chaos. Many huge craters appeared on the surface of the sea, creating huge waves that were over 10 meters tall. Many huge ships that weighed over 10,000 tons were sent flying, and many huge mushroom clouds filled the sky. It was as if nuclear explosions had occurred, destroying the world. The experts in this area were all panicking like stray dogs. They scrambled to dodge and flee, shrinking to the edge of the barrier and shivering. The battle between the two was earth-shattering and destructive. Even immortal state warriors would die if they were hit by the shock waves. It's so scary. Countless people trembled in fear. The battle between Jiang Tian and Nie Mingyuan showed the power of an earth-level deity and sky immortal. In front of the two of them, the wolf ancestor, the Wolf King and Cain Ali were as vulnerable as 3-year-old children. Boom. Nie Mingyuan was thrown a few hundred meters away and crashed into the sea, creating giant waves. When the huge waves stopped, everyone stared dumbfounded at the gradually calming sea surface, unable to say a word. The Zhenyu demon lord is dead? Situ Lei, the sect master of the Hong sect, trembled in despair. He was knocked out by Kong Teichu? Bloodlord Cain couldn't believe it. He had fought with Nie Mingyuan and was subdued by him, so he knew how powerful Nie Mingyuan was. Nie Mingyuan was the most powerful creature on this planet, and was comparable to the legendary immortal race. He is not dead, is he? Many overlords in the dark world trembled, as if they had fallen into an ice cellar. Nie Mingyuan was so powerful, but he was still killed by Jiang Taichu. Today he would definitely go on a killing spree. No one would have the chance to escape. Kneel down and beg for mercy. There is still a chance. Some overlords wanted to cry, but had no tears. They cursed Bloodlord Ali's mother 100 times. He regretted it so much. Why did he listen to Ali's words and believe that his one-day imprisonment array could trap Jiang Tian to death? But now, being blocked by Jiang Tian's barrier, he couldn't even run. He was at the mercy of others. Everyone, those who kill will be killed. Since you are here to attack the Sidoni Tianqing school, then be prepared to be killed. Jiang Tian yelled and formed the red sun and the silver moon again. He put his hands together and pushed. The red sun and silver moon intertwined as they flew out. Inside, there were golden crows and jade rabbits circling around. The sun rose and the moon fell, growing and multiplying endlessly. Facing Jiang Tian's earth-shattering divine power, many overlords in the dark world didn't even have the power to resist. Arg, the king of Tame Tao and Garga the Wolf King were crushed into ashes before they even had a chance to scream. The red sun and the silver moon formed a small circle of time, and contained the power of dimension. It was as if the world was turned upside down, crushing the overlords in the immortal state, and even the mortal deity saints. No, I can't die. The blood ancestor, Cain, turned into a beam of crimson light, and pierced through the golden barrier at 3 times the speed of sound like a sharp crimson sword. He wanted to tear open a hole and escape. His strength had reached the peak of the Saint King, which was the earth-level deity of the East. He was only one step away from the sky immortal sacred master. So he might be able to tear open a hole and escape by burning his blood crystal. Half of his body went through the array. Unexpectedly, a purple lightning saber light slashed at him from an impeccable angle, as if it had transcended space, and slashed at his body. Arg! Cain let out a howl of despair before exploding. Even his crimson soul had been pulverized into nothingness. A sacred master and an earth-level deity died under one slash. The entire North Bay was in a dead silence. Countless overlords were dumbfounded and couldn't say a word. Only Jiang Tian stood in the air with the sun and the moon in his hands and thunder in his eyes. His fierceness suppressed the world. Dead, they're all dead. A grand magus from the Middle East said with a trembling voice. Came the blood ancestor, Ali and the other blood ancestors, Garga the wolf ancestor of the grassland, the king of Tametau from Thailand. All of them had been famous for hundreds of years and were invincible in the world. They were extremely powerful and were all above the immortal state. Some of them were even mortal deities and earth-level deities. However, they were crushed like ants in front of Jiang Tian. I regret it so much. Why did I come? A dark magician from Eastern Europe said with a trembling voice. He wanted to cry but had no tears. At the moment, the entire North Bay was covered in blood. Hundreds of peak overlords had died. Today's battle was destined to stun the dark world and make countless experts tremble in fear. Chapter 785. But in fact, the battle was not over yet. Suddenly, the eyes of Jiang Tian, who had already retracted his golden avatar, turned cold as he stared at the floating Black Sea. This guy was still alive. The demon body of purgatory was extremely powerful, and his desire for revenge was too strong. If he let him go, there would be endless troubles. It seemed that he couldn't let him live. Today, he would kill him until he could never be reincarnated. Boom. The next moment, a huge wave rose from the ground and Nie Mingyuan shot out. His gloomy eyes glanced around, and a trace of anger appeared on his face. Very well, Jiang Tian, you are really strong. You killed all my subordinates. But without them, I can still kill you. The demon body of purgatory was too difficult to support. With Nie Mingyuan's current cultivation, he couldn't maintain it for a long time. At this time, Nie Mingyuan had shrunk to a height of 7 or 8 meters, but the 9 flying demons were still extremely frightening and terrifying. In fact, Nie Mingyuan's cultivation was only at the second level of foundation establishment. According to the cultivation system on Earth, he was at the level of human immortal or earth immortal. But the demon body of purgatory was one of the most powerful demon bodies in the universe, so his combat power was very strong, and could be compared with that of a sky immortal sacred master. Even if Situ Shao was here, he would be slightly inferior. They're just a bunch of thieves. So what if they're dead? How dare you provoke me with just a few cats and kittens? Jiang Tian looked at the world disdainfully. Looking at the whole world, who else could make Jiang Tian fight? The Heavenly Deity clan in the United States, the Holy See in Europe, the Hongmeng, the Kunlun sect. There were only a few. Jiang Tian had never taken demons and clowns like the wolf ancestor of the blood race to heart. Jiang Tian, I'm going to kill you. Nie Mingyuan waved his demons and shouted coldly. If I don't kill you to avenge my parents and Feng, I won't have the face to stand in this world. Today, I will definitely kill you. Haha, I underestimated you that day in Jinling. I didn't get rid of you with my own hands, and allowed you to grow stronger. Jiang Tian chuckled, flicked his sword and sang loudly. But that's good too. Your constitution isn't bad. Demonic flames overflowed and demonic blood surged. I'm going to pull out your tendons, peel off your skin, crush your flesh and crush your bones. I'm going to refine you into an exceptional precious medicine, and use you as a resource for my breakthrough. Whether it was the blood race, the wolf race, or the demon body of purgatory, none of them had the blood of the human race on Earth. They contained a great amount of energy. If the impurities were removed, they could be refined into the highest quality pills. However, at Jiang Tian's level, The werewolves and vampires wouldn't have much use for alchemy, but the demon body of purgatory could be used. Jiang Tian, I call myself the hell-suppressing devil monarch, but you are 10,000 times more vicious than me. You want to eat me? Dream on. Nie Mingyuan was so angry that his lungs were about to explode. He roared and attacked Jiang Tian again. Nie Mingyuan had been improving his cultivation by constantly devouring the essence, blood, and divine souls of others. He had become extremely powerful, and the title of the hell-suppressing devil monarch had shaken the world. Then Jiang Tian said that he would crush his flesh and bones to make pills. How could he stand it? Clang. He opened his mouth and spat out a demonic sword. The demonic sword expanded in the wind, and turned into a huge 30-meter-long sword with demonic flames burning on it. Spirit treasure? Jiang Tian's expression changed slightly when he saw this. This demonic sword was at the same level as the 9 swords of the 9-sword deity. It could withstand lightning and wouldn't melt in 10,000 degrees heat. That's right. This sword is called the Sky-Destroying Sword. I got it from the Amei sect of Mount Shu. Nie Mingyuan's eyes were filled with disdain and arrogance. It came from the outer space and was used by a cosmic fiend. He once killed millions of mortal deities and earth-level deities. At his peak, the cosmic fiend used this sword to destroy a star and a galaxy. In the 6th year of the Tianqi era in the Ming dynasty, it fell near the gunpowder depot of Wanggong Factory in Yanjing, Wuxia. There was an earth-shattering explosion with a radius of 1 kilometer. 20,000 people were turned into ashes, and 100,000 died. Tens of thousands of houses collapsed. I see. The Tianqi explosion. It's the Dharma artifact that caused the Tianqi explosion. Jiang Tian came to a realization. The faces of the other Heavenly Clear sect members changed drastically as they cried out in alarm. There were many records about the Tianqi explosion. It was famous in history and was known as an unsolved mystery. Lu Ruoyu, the eunuch of the ceremony division, had written a detailed account of this catastrophe in his History of the Ming Palace. In the 6th year of the Tianqi era, on the 6th day of the Wang month, there was a sudden tremor. More than 20 trees were uprooted from the ground. Some of their roots were up, while some of their tips were down. There was also a hole that was several feet deep. Smoke and clouds rose like Ganoderma and rolled toward the northeast. It was said that the sky was bright and clear. Suddenly, there was a roar from the northeast to the southwest corner of the city. At the same time, there was a huge fireball rolling in the sky. In the loud noise, the sky was filled with silk and tide-like colorless clouds. There were large and black mushroom and Ganoderma clouds that stood like pillars in the southwest corner of the city. In an instant, the sky darkened. Dust and fire flew everywhere. The sky collapsed and the earth sank. From the Fu City Gate in the east to the Ministry of Justice Street in the north, the area was 1,500 to 2,000 meters wide and 6,500 meters long. Wood stones, human bodies, and bird corpses fell from the sky like raindrops. Tens of thousands of houses and more than 20,000 people were blown into powder. Debris flew from the sky. There were even more dead people outside the core of the explosion. It was said that there were more than 100,000 people. Their clothes were blown to Chongping, and they were all naked. Is it a weapon from the outer space? Everyone in Tianqing School looked solemn and nervous. During the Tianqi era, the Heaven Destroyer sword could cause such a terrible explosion just by falling. If it was used, how terrifying would its lethality be? And Jiang Tian had once carefully researched this period of history. Looking at the length and width of the explosion, he speculated that it was a magical weapon in the shape of a sword that fell. Today, after hearing this, it was indeed so. Including the Tunguskau explosion in Russia and the Death Hill incident in India. Jiang Tian suspected that it had something to do with the falling of magical weapons from outer space. Jiang Tian thought to himself. It seemed that this speculation was quite reasonable. After this battle, he would have to investigate it. After this sword was obtained, it was escorted to the Amei sect of Mount Shu by the Tianqi Emperor's state protector and many martial arts experts. Nie Mingyuan said proudly. The Amei sect used this sword as the base to build a mountain protection array. This treasured sword was the foundation of the Amei sect's mountain protection formation. The Dharma power it emitted protected the Amei sect for hundreds of years. It was only when I led the mini-blood ancestors to break through the Ame sect that I took out this treasured sword. He held the long sword horizontally and said coldly, "Today, I'll use it to kill you. It's your honor." "Haha, you want to kill me with just a few pieces of scrap metal?" Jiang Tian sneered. "Is the demon sword used by the cosmic demons great? Even demon kings and demon gods, I have killed countless of them. In outer space there were many kinds of demons such as the nether demons, the sky demons, the bloodthirsty demons and so on. They once occupied many star regions and spread the demon Tao. Of course, they had fought with the human race. In his previous life, when Jiang Tian became the Taichu Celestial Emperor, he had led an army of 100,000 cultivators on countless expeditions and crusades. In the end, he even attacked the ancestral planet of the demons and killed 16 demon lords and 3 fiend ancestors, shocking the universe. At this time, Nie Mingyuan was only at the first or second level of the foundation establishment level. He was provoking him with a broken sword that had been used by an unknown demon. He must be tired of living. "Jiang Tian, you really don't know what's good for you. This sword is called Sky Destroyer. It's prepared to kill you, Jiang Tian." Nie Mingyuan was enraged. Even the brain Taoist admired the Sky Destroyer very much. After he had conquered the blood races in Europe, he told him that they had attacked the Ame sword sect together. Now he was being mocked by Jiang Tian. "Sky Destroyer Fiend Sword." Nie Mingyuan shouted and slashed with the sword. Black fiend fire surrounded the Sky Destroyer Fiend Sword like an erupting volcano, as if it could burn the sky. The fiend fire was fierce and contained extreme negative energy. The fire could burn an immortal state warrior to death, and the fiend chi could crush a grandmaster. Even Earth-level deity Situ Xiao would have to retreat if he was there. The long sword covered the sky with black smoke and fiend chi. The fire danced like an evil dragon. The sword seemed to have the power to destroy the sky. "You're still too far away from me when it comes to swordplay. To you, I'm the ancestor of swordplay," Jiang Tian said with disdain. "Break." Jiang Tian patted the sky-swallowing demon gourd on his waist. 9 flying swords. Green Ant, Spring Thunder, Moon Soul, Luo Po, Golden Crow, Demon Slayer, Imperial Wind, Falling Star and Dragon Scale. Light blossomed as he roared wildly. Like a bolt of lightning, he charged towards Nie Mingyuan. "You've actually found all these spirit treasure-level flying swords." Nie Mingyuan immediately felt the power of the flying swords, and felt an unprecedented sense of danger. He quickly defended himself and blocked with his sword. Clang! 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 The 9 flying swords clashed with the Sky Destroyer demon sword. Every time they clashed, there would be an earth-shattering sound. Flames shot out, and waves of dozens of meters high appeared on the sea. At this time, the Sky Army's aircraft carriers and warships had retreated to the harbor. Jiang Tian raised his hand and formed a shield to protect them. The overlords of the Dark World were not so lucky. They were all vomiting blood and their bodies were on the verge of collapse. They screamed and their power was suppressed. Under the repeated attacks, Nie Mingyuan's body kept retreating. In a blink of an eye, he was hundreds of meters away. Crack! In the end, shocking cracks appeared on the demon sword of annihilation in his hand, and then it exploded with a loud bang. After all, it was just an ordinary spirit treasure used by the demons. How could it compare with the 9 spirit treasure flying swords refined by Jiang Tian? Nie Mingyuan's heart sank when the Sky Destroyer sword was destroyed. He began to attack Jiang Tian. All-directional Nirvana. Demonic Flame Punishment. Purgatory Chain. Arcane Art. Demonic Throne. Most of these attacks came from the inheritance of the brain-headed Taoist and blood ancestor Green. Coupled with the demonic body of Purgatory, his power was doubled. He could even kill an earth immortal with ease. Unfortunately, he met Jiang Tian, the Jiang Tian who had become a god after cultivating for 10,000 years. Now Jiang Tian had completed his gung metal divine body, and cultivated his second primordial spirit, an indestructible transcendence golden body. When these spells hit Jiang Tian, they only made Jiang Tian sway slightly. They could not hurt him at all. Meanwhile, Jiang Tian's 9 flying swords were crazily slashing at him, leaving behind one deep wound after another on his body. In the end, Jiang Tian even used black as flying swords. A total of 10 flying swords crossed the sky and pierced through heaven and earth. Nie Mingyuan was forced to retreat. Chapter 786. Whoosh! Many flying swords shot out like cruise missiles, attacking his back. They circled around and cut off a demon head that was more than 10 meters long. Arg! Nie Mingyuan raised his head and roared in pain. Let's see how you can become a demon without a demon head. Jiang Tian sneered. His flying swords were as fast as lightning, cutting down the demon heads one by one. When there were only 3 demon heads left, Nie Mingyuan's face showed a trace of fear, and he retracted all the demon heads back into his back. I see. That divine soul. Is it Nie Xueman's? Seeing this, Jiang Tian scanned with his divine sense and a trace of understanding appeared in his heart. You have horns on your head. Are you a little dragon man? After that, Jiang Tian soared into the sky and smashed down with his fist. Clang! Nie Mingyuan's 2 curved horns burst out thousands of lightning bolts. These lightning bolts were extraordinary. Although they were weaker than Jiang Tian's purple lightning eyes, they were far more powerful than the thunder arts of Zeus and Zhang Qianlei. Unfortunately, they still couldn't block Jiang Tian's punch. Boom! A sea of lightning was smashed by Jiang Tian's punch. The 2 big horns that were more than a few meters long were smashed and thrown away by Jiang Tian. Black demon blood flowed out. Jiang Tian, you can't kill me. Nie Mingyuan grimaced in pain and roared like thunder. He quickly used the demon body art to heal his wounds. And a black aura that was as sticky as black glue tightly wrapped him in the middle. In an instant, he was surrounded by a huge black sphere. His confidence doubled. He said mockingly, "My demon body of purgatory is not even afraid of nuclear weapons. What can you do to me?" Then try it. Jiang Tian released many flying swords and pierced the black demon ball again and again. Bang bang bang. The black demon ball trembled violently and the demon chi in it surged, but it resisted Jiang Tian's 10 attacks. Kong Teichu, although I can't kill you, you can't kill me either. My demonic chi can withstand at least 10,000 attacks from your flying sword. During that time, I can already flatten your sect. Nie Mingyuan left without a fight. He flew toward the people of Tianqing School and roared ferociously. I want you to feel the pain of losing your family. The pain you brought me back then, I will return it 10-fold, 100-fold. As soon as these words were spoken, the entire audience cried out in surprise. That was true. Previously, Nie Mingyuan was only targeting Jiang Tian. Although he was slightly inferior to Jiang Tian couldn't kill him in a short time. But the people of Tianqing School were just ants to Nie Mingyuan. Even if he had to endure Jiang Tian's attack, he could still slaughter Tianqing School. Wait. Jiang Tian's figure flashed and stopped him. Do you want to kneel and kowtow to me? Nie Mingyuan suddenly thought that he had grasped Jiang Tian's weakness. He looked at him with disdain and said proudly, Jiang Tian, I didn't expect you to be so fierce. You can easily destroy a country, stain your hands with blood, and kill tens of thousands of people, but you still care about the life and death of your family. Kneel, hurry up and kneel, he said with a mocking face. Back then, you forced me to kneel. Now it's finally your turn to kneel. Let me tell you, this is the saying, don't bully a poor young man. Every dog has its day. No, I already have a way to kill you. I prepared it for those old monsters of the Holy Sea, but now, I can only use it on you. Jiang Tian said with a smile. The reason why I haven't used it is that I was worried that it would burn your body and affect the refining of pills. But now you are desperate, so I can only use it on you. What did you say? Jiang Tian, you little bastard. Nie Mingyuan shouted angrily, his face turning green with anger. 10,000 swords in one. Jiang Tian ignored him and put his hands together. Swish, swish, swish. The 10 flying swords seemed to be alive. They nested and meshed with each other, changing in an instant and forming a huge long sword. After the long sword was formed, it kept shrinking and changing in an instant. In the end, it condensed into a 3-inch sword. This small sword was made up of 10 flying swords. It was extremely condensed, and its power increased 10-fold. In an instant, a mid-grade spirit treasure had reached the level of a supreme-grade spirit treasure. Demon Slayer. A low shout came out of Jiang Tian's mouth. Jiang Tian flicked his 10 fingers out like a blooming lotus flower. Swish. The space around the small sword's hilt was annihilated, as if it had collapsed. It was pitch black, and the small sword had already abruptly charged forward. The sword instantly turned into a sword light hell, as if it could kill billions of people and destroy the 9 heavens and 10 earths. Through Jiang Tian, one could see an ancient divine emperor standing behind him. This god emperor was incomparably tall and imposing like a mountain. He stood in the primal chaos void as if he had walked out from the end of time. He brandished a huge treasured sword and slashed apart the primal chaos and chaos with a single slash. This is the ancient divine demon slayer sword. Zhao Xueqing's beautiful eyes widened as she exclaimed. The ancient divine demon slayer sword was the most powerful sword art of a human divine emperor in the Barren Age. It was said that he had once killed 10 fiend gods at the eternal star level when he was at his peak. He was unimaginably powerful. Jiang Tian was at the first level of the foundation establishment level, so of course, he couldn't use it completely. However, the sword intent he simulated was enough to break Nie Mingyuan's protective fiend qi. Bang! When Nie Mingyuan still had a faint sneer on his face, the sword had already pierced through the air and arrived. The black fiend qi was supposed to be able to withstand a salvo of missiles, and even a single blow from a nuclear weapon. But under this small sword, it was pierced through like jelly. How is this possible? Nie Mingyuan widened his eyes and exclaimed. 8 fiend defense arts and divine powers were released on his body. However, they were all cut open by the sword. Even the purple armor and hard bone spikes exploded. In the end, the small sword dashed forward and pierced through his chest. Arg! Nie Mingyuan let out an earth-shattering cry and fell from the sky. During the fall, Jiang Tian pierced his dantian a few more times. Terrifying cracks began to appear on his body. Jiang Tian had pierced through his dantian, which was equivalent to destroying the fiend body of purgatory. This kind of damage couldn't be repaired. The fiend body of purgatory immediately started to collapse irreversibly. I failed again. Nie Mingyuan gritted his teeth and was filled with hatred. But this isn't the end. I'll be back. But he was very straightforward. A black devil qi broke free from his body, wrapped in a ball of flickering light, turned into a black light, and pierced into the distance. His body continued to fall. Before it collapsed, Jiang Tian patted the sky-devouring demonic gourd at his waist and directly took it in. But Nie Mingyuan's divine soul black light was very sharp. Jiang Tian's true essence barrier was not even able to withstand it for a second before it was pierced through. His divine soul actually ran away? Honey, we can't let the tiger go back to the mountain. Seeing this, Zhao Xueqing exclaimed. This is the divine soul condensed by the soul devourer's divine sense. It can naturally devour other people's spiritual strength and penetrate all barriers. Jiang Tian said. The fiend body of purgatory was very powerful in both physical body and divine sense. Especially the soul devourer's divine sense. If it was condensed properly, it could even cross the void and the universe without being destroyed. It could be called an immortal soul. What should we do? Zhao Xueqing was very anxious. Nie Mingyuan's divine sense had escaped. It was very bad. He could completely condense a physical body, or take over someone else's body. It doesn't matter. Jiang Tian didn't panic at all. He said slowly. Although the diabolism is strong, most of them are formed by monstrous resentment, hostility, and hatred. This kind of power makes their spiritual strength and physical body very strong. But just like the two sides of a coin, they can also become their fatal Achilles heel, which is the heart acupoint of the diabolism. Once the heart acupoint is broken, his divine sense will naturally be destroyed. Jiang Tian's eyes gradually became cold. Today I, Kong Teichu, will use my infinite divine sense to create a heart tribulation illusion to destroy your heart's blood and your soul devourer completely. While talking, Jiang Tian had already rushed to intercept. At the same time, the small golden lake in the center of his forehead rippled, and the illusion suddenly appeared. Mingyuan. Nie Mingyuan had run 10 kilometers away. Suddenly, he heard a warm and clear voice behind him, which made his divine soul avatar tremble. The voice was very soft, But to Nie Mingyuan's divine soul avatar, it was no less than a bolt from the blue. It was the voice of his father, Nie Zhonghai. Save me. I'm in so much pain from the fire. Mother Nie's screams were very painful and mournful. Just like that night, the voices of many Nie family members being burned, the cries for help, and the screams were very clear and real, and entered his ears. Nie Mingyuan's divine soul avatar suddenly stopped. Stop screaming. The divine soul avatar shouted angrily, but the voice still firmly drilled into his ears. You unfilial son, you can't even kill Jiang Tian. You're not worthy of being a son. You're too useless. Nie Zhonghai suddenly appeared in front of him. I should have shot you to the wall back then. Suddenly, Nie Zhonghai's figure changed, and he turned into a several hundred meters long evil dragon. He opened his bloody mouth and bit at Nie Mingyuan's divine soul. A trace of cold sweat slowly slid down the forehead of Nie Mingyuan's divine soul. The soul devourer's divine sense was very strong, and the divine soul avatar was like a real person, with 5 viscera, 6 senses and 5 senses. It was almost solid. Don't look back, Demon King. The remnant of brain Taoist's divine soul suddenly screamed. This is a heart tribulation illusion. This Kong Teichu actually created a heart tribulation illusion. It's too scary. You can never leave after one look. Nie Mingyuan's divine soul avatar couldn't move anymore, and tears of blood rolled out of his eyes. He seemed to see the past, the familiar home, and those happy times. In the luxurious villa of the Nie family in Jinling, his father sat on a leather sofa imported from Italy, majestically giving orders, dealing with official business, and sternly interrogating him about his studies and business operations after he hung up the phone. His mother brought in steaming hot food, persuaded his father, and spoke for him. His mother was very beautiful and dignified, and would always be his warm harbor. His younger brother, Nie Feng, would definitely eat a few pieces without washing his hands, and would be gently scolded by his mother. Although Nie Feng was very naughty and playful in the eyes of others, in his eyes, he was so cute and naughty. Mingyuan, I want to be with you forever. A soft and pleasant voice, like a lover whispering in his ear, sounded again. It was Nie Shuaman's voice. Chapter 787. Nie Mingyuan's divine soul avatar trembled violently, as if he had been struck by lightning. His shoulders trembled rapidly. Blood and tears flowed from his eyes as he sobbed silently. That Li Mubai is so annoying. Help me kill him. Aren't you the demon king of hell now? Nie Shuaman's voice was both angry and happy. It was filled with shyness and tenderness. It was so pleasant and intoxicating. Shuaman, I don't want to kill you. Nie Mingyuan felt a sharp pain. It was the pain of his soul. It was more painful than having one's bones sucked, more painful than having one's heart torn apart, more painful than having one's skin peeled off, and 10 times more painful than being burned by fire. 100 times. At this moment, he felt as if his divine soul avatar was about to explode. After killing Nie Shuaman, he regretted it. Yes, his regret could not be washed away even with all the water in the world. He had tried dozens of methods, countless magic treasures, medicines, and flesh to help Nie Shuaman reconstruct her body, but they all ended in failure. This was the law of nature, and also the law of heaven. Nie Mingyuan's demon body of hell and soul devourer were too strong. It was destined that his shattered body and divine soul could never be restored and reformed. Not to mention that he could not do it now. Even if he became a demon king, he could not do it. The law of heaven was heartless after all. Demonic Tao was the end of the road. A single mistake was destined to be regretted for eternity. Now you are the strongest man in the world. Your burns are healed. I have been waiting for this day. Nie Shuaman beseeched him tenderly. Mingyuan, why don't you look back at Aunt? You are so cruel. Isn't it great that we can be together forever? Demon King, you can't look back, you can't. From the day you stepped into the demonic Tao, you can't look back. Once you look back, you will be doomed eternally. How can this Kong Teichu be so vicious? It's too scary. At this moment, Brainhead and Green's divine souls were almost scared out of their wits. They roared loudly. Aunt, Nie Mingyuan's divine soul avatar murmured. His body trembled, and he could no longer control himself. This voice was too real. Even though he knew deep in his heart that this was an illusion, he still couldn't help but want to take a look. It's all fake. I know it's all fake. I'll only take one more look, and then I'll leave immediately. I'll fly far away, then condense my physical body and head to the ruins of immortality. When I reach the golden core level, I'll make a comeback and kill Jiang Tian to avenge you all. With this thought in mind, Nieming Yuan's soul avatar slowly turned its head and glanced behind it. Nie Xueman was dressed in a green Taoist robe. She was standing in the sky. Her smile was like a flower. She was looking at him with a smile. Mingyuan, you finally turned back. That pair of bright eyes were so gentle and doting, carrying with them lightning. It was as if they had passed through more than 10 years and returned to the past. That year, they rode together through the dense camphor forest of Jinling on their way to school. Her eyes were as bright and gentle as they are now. That year, he tasted her sweet and fragrant lips with a taboo dizziness. Her eyes reflected his own face, like a dream or fantasy. That year, in the theater box, her gentle fingers ran through his hair. Her eyes were evasive and shy. Nie Mingyuan had underestimated his feelings for Nie Xueman. He murmured in a daze. If all of this can last forever, then maybe there won't be so many regrets in life. However, Nie Xueman's smile gradually became cold and fierce. She instantly turned into a ferocious demon and roared angrily. Are you going to kill me? How can you have the heart to do that? How can you be so cruel? I was wrong. I regret it. Nieming Yuan's soul avatar roared to the sky. It fluctuated violently, expanding and shrinking at times. It was very unstable and cracks appeared on it, as if it was about to collapse. Demon Lord, go. This is fake. It's an illusion. No matter how the brain Taoist shouted, it was useless. He couldn't stop his demon heart from collapsing and couldn't persuade him to leave. Nie Xueman suddenly changed again. Boom. She opened her bloody mouth and bit toward Nie Mingyuan. Go to hell. Die with me. Become a part of my body and never be separated. Xueman. Kill me. As long as we're together. Nie Mingyuan's soul avatar didn't resist. It was instantly devoured by the psychic power and shattered. Boom. Boom. In the process of the collapse, Nie Mingyuan's divine soul actually experienced a series of earth-shattering explosions, which even destroyed Nie Xueman several times. However, more and more Nie Xueman were formed. Some were demons in human form, and some were sword-wielding. They came from all directions, slashing the Nie Xueman into pieces before devouring it completely. After a while, heaven and earth became clear again. The small golden lake in Jiang Tian's forehead rippled. Several Nie Xueman turned into streaks of golden light, and entered Jiang Tian's mind. That was close. Jiang Tian wiped the cold sweat off his forehead. He was still scared. If Nie Mingyuan's soul had wanted to escape, Jiang Tian wouldn't have been able to stop and capture it with his current cultivation. Jiang Tian's divine gunmetal body was extremely powerful. It could kill all Foundation establishment cultivators. However, his divine sense might not be stronger than the divine sense of the demon body of purgatory. If the divine sense of the demon body of purgatory wasn't bewitched, Jiang Tian wouldn't have been able to do anything. After all, this thing was a heaven-defying existence. However, in terms of cultivation experience, Nie Mingyuan was too weak. Even the brain Taoist couldn't do it. In Jiang Tian's previous life, he had once killed several powerful figures with the devil body of purgatory, and he had used the method of destroying the heart acupoint. Jiang Tian used his divine sense to create all kinds of illusions, and accurately destroyed Nie Mingyuan's demon heart acupoint. It made Nie Mingyuan's painful memories and gradually strengthened his self-destructive consciousness. At this time, Jiang Tian used his divine sense to transform into Nie Xueman, and easily devoured Nie Mingyuan's soul. Of course, Jiang Tian used his divine sense to create all kinds of illusions that almost looked real, especially when he directly made Nie Mingyuan's divine sense fall into it, and couldn't extricate himself. The consumption of his divine sense was not small. At this time, a wave of exhaustion hit him. But the harvest is quite good. I've devoured this demon's soul to strengthen my divine sense. My body can be used to refine peerless elixirs. Jiang Tian entered the barrier again, and landed on the Taichu aircraft carrier. He chuckled and was very pleased. After devouring Nieming Yuan's soul, Jiang Tian's divine sense also became stronger. Jiang Tian looked into his divine sense and found a black sticky substance floating in it. This was Nieming Yuan's soul devourer divine sense. At this time, Jiang Tian's divine sense had already taken this soul devourer divine sense as his own. It had the attribute of a soul devourer. In this way, Jiang Tian's divine sense had become abnormally powerful without the need to cultivate. His soul energy had increased by tenfold or even hundredfold. After seeing Nieming Yuan's death, especially when they heard Jiang Tian say that he wanted to use his body to refine elixirs, many of the spectators were scared out of their wits. They knelt on the ground and kowtowed repeatedly. Jiang Tian's majestic gaze swept across the crowd. All of the overlords were trembling and didn't dare to look at him. They lowered their heads and knelt on the ground. Situlei Dai, come here. In the end, Jiang Tian's gaze fell on Situlei and sneered. Master Kong, do you really dare to kill me? Senior Situ Shao, the founder of the Hong sect, has come out of the mountain. Situlei cowered like a quail in a storm. He didn't dare to step forward, but he still threatened Chen Fan. The battle between Jiang Tian and Situ Shao had taken place in the Severnaya Zemlya, and there were few witnesses. Moreover, Hao Taichong, Li Jiuyo Zhou Zixuan, and Fia and others had either been killed by Jiang Tian or died in the Sword Tomb. Therefore, the news of the battle outside the Sword Tomb had not spread at all. If you dare to kill me, he will kill you too. You know, he is already an earth-level deity of the East. He might be able to fight with you. Situlei thought that Situ Shao hadn't encountered Jiang Tian yet. At this moment, he naturally brought up the founder of the Hong sect and wanted to threaten Jiang Tian. Hearing this, all the people present raised their heads slightly and secretly looked at Jiang Tian, wondering what Jiang Tian would do. After all, Situ Shao was also an earth-level deity with a lifespan of nearly 300 years. What's more, he practiced orthodox Eastern martial arts. They were afraid that he could defeat Cain. Besides, the Hong sect was also very powerful and had a strong foundation. Would Jiang Tian really dare to kill Situlei? Boom! All of a sudden, the sound of something breaking through the air like rolling thunder could be heard. A figure drew out streaks of cyan light, like a rainbow piercing through the sun, crossing a distance of several thousand meters and shooting over. It was Situ Shao. On the way, he had used the satellite phone to contact the Hong sect, and had already learned about the cooperation between Situlei and the Gathering of Darkness. He knew something was wrong and hurried to catch up with Chen Fan. But Jiang Tian was too fast. Even though Jiang Tian was only relying on his physical strength, he couldn't catch up with him on the second-generation disposable flying sword given by Jiang Tian. But it was too late for him to try to contact Situlei. At this time, the array had been formed and all electronic signals were blocked. It's over. The Situ family's bloodline is going to end. When he rushed over while panting, he saw the scene of Situlei and Jiang Tian challenging each other. He couldn't help but be scared silly. He was so shocked that he couldn't say a word. As soon as Situ Shao arrived, many people were overjoyed and saw a glimmer of hope. Maybe there was still a chance to turn this battle around. After all, Situ Shao was also an overlord who was stronger than Cain. If he led everyone to attack with all his might, they might be able to fight their way out of this strange array. Haha, ancestral master, you are finally here. Situlei's eyes lit up, and he quickly stepped into the air to greet Chen Fan. He bowed deeply and said with joy, "Help me, Kong Teichu. Help me. Kong Teichu is going to kill me." Now that his backer was here, his courage was greatly boosted, and he became even more arrogant. His eyes were filled with disdain and arrogance as he roared at Jiang Tian recklessly. "Kong Teichu, are you blind? Can't you see that my ancestral master is here? Why don't you kneel down and admit defeat? He is an earth-level deity who practices the orthodox arts of the Eastern Tao sect. He is not someone that Cain and the other vampires can compare with. Dare I ask, are you afraid? Are you afraid?" Chapter 788. You shut up. Situ Shao was almost scared out of his wits. His face changed drastically. "I think you are the one who is blind." Smack. He slapped Situ Xiao hundreds of meters away, and he fell into the sea like a drowning dog. Grandmaster, why did you hit me? Situ Lei came out of the sea with half of his face broken. He felt wronged and puzzled. Vile spawn, how dare you disrespect Jiang Tianxian? If you dare to do it again, I will kill you. Situ Xiao was so angry that his entire body trembled, and his teeth almost broke from gritting them. When I left, I told you not to act rashly. Who told you to attack Tianqing School? Who told you to cooperate with the Gathering of Darkness? How dare you offend Master Kong? Do you want to die? That is a real celestial immortal. How can you provoke him? Don't you have a brain? If Situ Lei was not his direct great-great-grandson and was connected by blood, he would have already slapped him to death. What? Situ Lei was shocked when he heard this. His face was as pale as paper. He murmured, Grandmaster, have you already? Idiot, hurry up and kneel down to Grandmaster Jiang. Situ Xiao wanted to cry but had no tears. After shouting, he quickly flew to Jiang Tian and knelt down in front of him, saying with a bitter face, Master, please forgive this old man for disciplining him. This unworthy descendant has offended you. If you want to kill him, just say the word and the old man will obey. Oh my God! Seeing this scene, Situ Lei was so shocked that he was tongue-tied, and his soul almost left his body. His feet swayed, and he fell into the sea again, becoming a drowning dog again. What? Master? An earth-level deity, the Grand Master of the Hong sect, called Kong Techu Master? This is too shocking. Could it be that Kong Techu has already defeated an earth-level deity? Could it be that he already had the strength to defeat an earthly immortal before he was trapped in the sword tomb? If that's the case, we're really here to seek death. We're actually challenging an earthen immortal. Seeing this, many experts from the dark world were dumbfounded. They couldn't believe it, and cold sweat dripped down their backs. At this moment, the moon-worshipping Wolf King had also arrived. He swung his sleeves and stood with his hands behind his back. He swept his gaze over the crowd of heroes and said proudly, Outside the sword catacomb, the Icefield Wolf ancestor has already died at the hands of Master Kong. Situ Xiao and I have already acknowledged Master Kong as our master. In front of everyone, he admitted to being Jiang Tian's servant, but he wasn't ashamed at all. Instead, his eyes and expression were filled with pride. It was as if being able to become Jiang Tian's servant was something to be proud of, or even a great honor. Situ Xiao and the moon-worshipping Wolf King actually defer to Master Kong and call themselves servants. Aya, the Wolf King's arm is healed. It must be Master Kang's doing. Only he has such terrifying means. Many experts exclaimed. Their last glimmer of hope had been shattered, and their hearts sank into the abyss. Besides, you're all idiots. Master Kong is trapped in the sword catacomb. Bullshit. The Wolf King puffed out his chest and looked at them with disdain. He already knew about this time acceleration array. He purposely entered it and used it to advance his cultivation. These experts from the dark world were too stupid. Master Kong was a visitor from the outer space. He was from an advanced civilization and had lived for tens of thousands of years. How could he not see through the crudely constructed array? These people actually came to provoke the Heavenly Clear sect without knowing the meaning of death. Simply brain damage to the extreme. This, oh my God, the day imprisonment array, was used by him. He used the day imprisonment array to advance his cultivation. I'm afraid he's already a sky immortal. In an instant, many experts' faces were ashen and dejected. Many emotions flashed through their eyes. Shock, fear, despair, frustration, and regret. Master Kong, we're just here to watch the battle. We don't want to be enemies with Tianqing School. Yeah, we're just here to watch. We don't want to be enemies with Master Kong. A group of people hurriedly shouted. At this time, the cultivation that Jiang Tian had displayed had scared them out of their wits. They couldn't control themselves at all. An Indonesian Grand Tame headmaster rushed to Jiang Tian and knelt down. He claimed that he wanted to be Master Kang's disciple and join Tianqing School. A Japanese kendo master stepped forward and said with a flattering face. He claimed that he was also a member of the Sakura Society and a disciple of Master Kong. He heard that the Covenant of Darkness was about to invade, so he came to help. Bullshit. What's your plan? Do you think you can hide it from us? Sasaki Aisha immediately rebuked these people. When the Sakura Society announced the war with the Covenant of Darkness, these Japanese overlords immediately withdrew from the Sakura Society and declared war on Tianqing School. In fact, at least half of the Dark Overlords present were there to help the Covenant of Darkness. However, their cultivation levels were too low, so they didn't join the fight. Instead, they were in the second echelon. They were waiting for the Covenant of Darkness to defeat the people of Tianqing School. Then they would swarm in and steal the treasures. Sasaki Aisha pointed out the accomplices of the Covenant of Darkness. Go to hell. Jiang Tian wouldn't show any mercy. With a swish, 10 flying swords shot out like cruise missiles. Bang, bang, bang. Everywhere the tip of the sword passed, corpses exploded apart one after another, and they transformed into a rain of sparkling and translucent flesh that rained down. These people were all overlords below the immortal state. They couldn't resist Jiang Tian's sharp flying swords. Each of the swords was as fast as lightning and killed 100 people in a second. Run. These people were so scared that their souls almost left their bodies. They squeaked and screamed as they scampered away. But how could they run? Jiang Tian's 10 flying swords were like rainbows piercing the sun, cutting through the sky. Every time, he would have to kill dozens or even hundreds of people. It was as easy as chopping vegetables. In the end, even the transcendent grandmasters were all killed. Only a few minions under the transcendent state, as well as some assassins and mercenaries, were left. Such people wouldn't be able to pose a threat to the Tianqing sect, even if they were given another 100 or 1,000 years. They were truly ants, and Jiang Tian couldn't be bothered to kill them. Thank you, Jiang Tian, for sparing our lives. The flying swords flew into Jiang Tian's sky-swallowing demon gourd. The Dark Association experts who were still alive were so scared that they peed and shat themselves. They collapsed to the ground like mud and scrambled to kneel down, kowtowing and thanking Jiang Tian for his kindness. Master Kong, I know I was wrong. Boo. I regret it so much. Situlei was so scared that he burst into tears. If it weren't for the ancestral master's timely arrival and Master Kang's mercy, he would have died a few times. Looking at the overlords kneeling on the ground, the people of Tianqing School were stunned. They couldn't believe it. We won. That was too easy. They had thought that the Covenant of Darkness would come with many powerful henchmen. Even if the sect master returned safely, they would have to fight for a few days. Who would have thought that the moment Jiang Tian made a move, it was like crushing dry weeds and smashing rotten wood. It was simply crushing an army of thousands. The Genyu Demon King and Kane, 2 Earth-level deities, 13 mortal deities, 53 immortal state warriors, and 2,000 overlords from the Dark World. It could be said that the overlords of the Dark World had gathered. Yi Zhantian's hands trembled and he couldn't believe it. But now they've all been wiped out by Master's sword alone. He has suppressed the world by himself. After this battle, the history of the entire world was rewritten. The entire Dark World withered, its vitality was greatly damaged, and it couldn't recover. There was no longer a world where many overlords dreamed and looked forward to fighting against each other. When a flower bloomed, 100 flowers would be killed. Now only Jiang Tian stood at the top, overlooking the world and suppressing the Dark World. Many experts could only tremble in fear and prostrate themselves in worship. If the news of this battle gets out, I'm afraid the whole world will tremble. Red Sparrow sighed with a complicated expression. In fact, the whole world had been deeply shaken. When the Covenant of Darkness set out, the European Union coalition forces sent many large and small drones and reconnaissance aircraft to the battlefield. The European Union Joint Conference was held urgently, and many politicians and high-ranking officials watched the battle. Once the Covenant of Darkness eliminated Tianqing School, the European Union coalition forces would march straight in and occupy Sidoni. I think that this operation is still a little too conservative. We could have sent troops. At the joint conference, European Union President Jung spoke a little angrily. The joint conference had always been very democratic, and decisions were made by voting. Due to the operation of a large number of European dignitaries who settled in Sidoni's immortal healing village, in the end, many European countries did not send troops. But Jung had been brooding about this. He thought that Jiang Tian's death in the Sword Tomb was the only chance for the European Union to eliminate Tianqing School and Sidoni. Now they had missed a good opportunity. It's better to be safe. Kang Taechu is dead. I think the Covenant of Darkness is enough. We just need to sit back and enjoy the fruits of their labor. A British military representative, a Navy general, said in a deep voice, whether it's the Covenant of Darkness or Tianqing School, they are both forces that are not conducive to our rule. They are unstable factors that seriously affect the credibility of the government. If we don't let the Covenant of Darkness suffer losses, how can we eliminate the Covenant of Darkness in the future? It's also very troublesome. A general of the Italian Air Force, with a thick cigar in his mouth, said calmly, no matter what their views and attitudes were. But they all believed that with Kang Taechu's death, Tianqing School would definitely be eliminated this time. The question was how much damage the Covenant of Darkness would suffer. Chapter 789. There were many images on the big screen in the conference room. The Gathering of Darkness was aggressive. The 6 blood ancestors, the leaders of various forces, and even the Genyu Demon King showed up. However, there were many twists and turns in the battle. Zhao Xueqing was as powerful as the blood ancestor Cain. Is she Kang Taechu's wife? Is she the one who killed the French speaker? She's so powerful. She's also evolving. Her combat power is constantly improving. Fortunately, the Genyu Demon King is very powerful. The Gathering of Darkness has 1,000 years of history. It's more powerful after all. Just as Nie Mingyuan was showing off his devilish might and everyone thought that the Heavenly Clear sect would definitely be defeated, Jiang Tian's sudden appearance instantly shocked everyone. What? Kang Taechu is not dead? The general of the Italian Air Force jumped up in shock. Fortunately, we didn't send out our troops. The British military representative's face was pale, and his heart was palpitating. Kang Taechu is not dead, and he killed so many people with one slash. Jung was so frightened that his eyes almost popped out. He held a cup of coffee to hide his change of expression. However, the coffee cup collided with his teeth and made a sound like a machine gun. At this time, he felt that his face was swollen. He had just said that Jiang Tian had died, but now he came back safe and sound, and his cultivation had become so powerful. After that, the image on the big screen twisted and trembled for a while before it went completely black. The conference room was dead silent. Hundreds of senior officials in the European army and political circles all looked at the dark big screen in shock. Their faces were pale and their eyes were full of fear, but they couldn't make a sound. I think we have to give Kang Taechu a reasonable explanation. Finally, the general of the British Air Force broke the silence with a trembling voice. Jung was silent for a long time with a gloomy expression on his face. Then he sighed. Yes, otherwise, the whole of Europe will be in chaos. After this sigh, he seemed to have aged 10 years in an instant. His back, which was as straight as a sword, was now hunched over. He knew that his political career was over. Beijing Song Family Manor. After Song Lingshuang entered the Amei sword sect, Song Beishan announced that he would completely withdraw from the political scene of Wuxia. Moreover, many of his disciples had left the system. In a short period of time, the Song family had evolved into a business family. However, many observers commented that the Song family's move was a desperate attempt at survival. Perhaps they would break out of their cocoon and evolve into an even more powerful martial arts family. In recent days, the Song family could be said to be beaming with joy. Especially after hearing that Jiang Tian might be dead, Song Beishan, who had been sober for 3 years, drank 3 to 5 bottles of Maotai aged wine that night. His eyes were hazy with drunkenness as he slammed the table and shouted, "This is great! The heavens have opened their eyes. Even the Dark Parliament can't stand this anymore. They want to kill this thug Jiang Tian. Dad, that's great. I heard that the Covenant of Darkness has mobilized all its forces to attack Sidoni and encircle Tianqing School. Even the European Union is supporting them." That night, at the dinner table, the second son of the Song family shouted excitedly. "Sure." Song Beishan smiled smugly. "This Kang Taechu is too arrogant. He doesn't know the immensity of heaven and earth. You're just a little brat, and you only know a little bit of martial arts. You want to establish the kingdom of Sidoni? You want to learn from the South and call yourself a king? The United States and the European Union are not going to sit back and do nothing. Those big organizations in the dark world are not going to let this go. Now they have ruined Qingqing's life. Suddenly, Song Beishan's internal phone rang. It was his old friend Lu Jinghua. Lu Jinghua had been relieved of all his duties and the entire Lu family had been demoted. The Lu family had transformed into a business family. However, after the battle with Jiang Tian, the Lu family had realized the importance of martial arts. They recruited people all over the world and roped in many real and fake martial Dao masters, forming a loose martial Dao family. They were keeping a low profile and observing the situation. Once Jiang Tian was dead, they would rise again. Good news must have come. Tianqing school is gone. Song Beishan picked up the phone with a smile. However, after a few words, Song Beishan's smile froze on his face. His phone fell to the ground. What's wrong, Lord? A family member asked. Song Beishan said in a daze, the one with the surname Jiang didn't die. He came back and won. What? He won the Gathering of Darkness? Everyone was shocked. Everyone screamed like a cat whose tail had been stepped on. It was as if they had been struck by a bolt from the blue, and they froze on the spot as if they had lost their parents. Don't worry about it. He is far away in Sidoni, and we are in China. We have nothing to do with him. Song Shuangyan's father scolded angrily. At this moment he felt very uncomfortable. If he had chosen Jiang Tian, he would be Jiang Tian's father-in-law. He would be Sidoni's king. No. We have to leave Wuxia tonight. Now. Song Beishan suddenly said. Why? Does Jiang Tian dare to kill people in Wuxia? We didn't do anything to him. Everyone was puzzled. Just a few days ago, Song Beishan said that the Song family was about to rise. Why were they running away? Go quickly. Song Beishan's face was pale and trembling violently. Only he knew that he was the one who provided the long formation base and defense to the Gathering of Darkness. If Yi Zhantian found out, he would not let him go. Jiang Tian would not let him go. Wuxia officials would not let him go. At this moment, he regretted it so much that his intestines turned green. When Nie Mingyuan secretly visited him, he saw Nie Mingyuan's various supernatural powers. He thought that Nie Mingyuan could destroy the Long Formation and Tianqing School and dominate the world. If he helped Nie Mingyuan, he would be a meritorious official and become Nie Mingyuan's agent in Wuxia. In that case, the Song family would rise, wouldn't it? But he did not expect that he would be outsmarted by his own cleverness. He went for wool and came home shorn. At this time, the entire North Bay of Sidoni had gradually calmed down. Jiang Tian invited many people who really came to help Tianqing School to enter the sect's Taoist temple. In the sect, the array was running continuously. The spiritual qi was so dense that it was like rain. Spirit herbs and medicine were everywhere, which shocked a group of people. Son, you're finally back. Zhang Wanqing hugged Jiang Tian with tears streaming down her face. She kissed Jiang Tian several times on the cheek, which made Jiang Tian feel a little embarrassed. Seeing this, the girls covered their mouths and laughed. But Zhang Wanqing said with conviction, "What's wrong with kissing my own son?" After a while of idle chatter, Jiang Chongqing took Jiang Tian's hand and smiled with relief. Jiang Tian, Tianqing School has really done a great job this time. Master Hua, Zhantian, and the others have wiped out all the dark overlords who invaded Wuxia. Even the chief personally called to express his gratitude. Jiang Tian was not surprised by this. Nowadays, many ideas have changed. Martial arts overlords have been regarded as the last trump card of a country. Tianqing School had preserved the martial arts heritage of Wuxia. How could the chief and the leaders not be grateful? He smiled faintly and said, "No matter when or where, I have never forgotten that I am a descendant of the Yellow Emperor. The same goes for the people of Tianqing School. It is our duty to help the martial arts community of Wuxia." At this time, Yi Zhantian put away the satellite phone, walked over and said quickly, "Master, We have received news that Lu Zhenghua of the Lu family provided the distribution map of the major martial arts sects and forces in Wuxia to the Covenant of Darkness. And the Song family revealed the location of the Huaxiaolong Formation and its defense to Niemingyuan. They are still lying? It is time to wipe out these two families. Jiang Tian's eyes flashed with a trace of sharpness and a grim smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. The President of the European Union, Jung, called Master Kong and expressed his sincere congratulations to Jiang Tian for annihilating the Covenant of Darkness. He also invited Jiang Tian to visit the European Union for a state visit. At this time, Hera walked over and said with a complicated expression, "The European Union congratulated me. How interesting." Jiang Tian was amused by these people. Didn't they arrest Jiang Bengxia and ask our country for compensation? Jung and the European Union officials claimed that everything that happened before was a misunderstanding, and that they were forced by the Covenant of Darkness. Hera shook her head gently, and a trace of mockery appeared at the corner of her mouth. These politicians changed their sails according to the wind. They were two-faced and had changed from arrogance to deference. It could be said that they were extremely shameless. When Jiang Tian wasn't here, they were aggressive, shouting about fighting and killing, jumping 3 feet high into the air, arrogant and despotic to the extreme. When they saw that Jiang Tian had defeated the Covenant of Darkness, they immediately knelt down and begged for mercy, flattering and fawning. "I won't let any of the supporters and henchmen of the Covenant of Darkness go," Jiang Tian said coldly. Any organization was made up of people, and people were also the most important factor in the operation of an organization. It was the same for small families, enterprises, associations, and large cities, countries, and the United Nations. As long as you intimidated people, you could intimidate the organization. This time, Jiang Tian wanted to show the world the consequences of provoking Jiang Tian and Tianqing School. "Immortal Jiang Tian, we have prepared everything." Hera handed a document to Jiang Tian. It was a list of dozens of pages and photos. They were the controllers of major families and enterprises in Europe, Canada, America, and even some members of the royal family. It turned out that Niemingyuan had swept the world and reorganized the Covenant of Darkness, gaining many believers and supporters. The European Union was pressured by the rich allies of Sidonia and decided not to send troops. It was these families and enterprises that donated tens of billions of dollars to support Niemingyuan's crusade against Tianqing School and Sidonia. This is the list provided by the Queen of Heaven, Hera. Later, our intelligence agency carried out additional investigations. There will be no fish left out of the net, and no one will be killed unjustly. Observer Merrill reported from the side. "Very good. Hera Merrill, thank you for your hard work." Jiang Tian smiled faintly, then said coldly, "Tell the European Union that they can't reveal anything about the battle in the Gulf of Tonkin. Don't alert the enemy. This time, I'm going to kill everyone in the world and make them tremble in fear." Instantly, a monstrous murderous aura soared into the sky and enveloped the entire Tianqing sect's dojo. It was as if a primordial ferocious beast had awakened, shaking Zhao Xueqing to the point that she could not withstand the pressure, and retreated a few steps. Chapter 790. At night. Wisteria Manor, Vienna, Austria. The blue Danube River flowed past the front door. Standing at the top of the manor, one could see the Alps in the distance. Listening to the sound of the wind and the flowing water, one felt as if they were in the Huaxia. Only the top families in the area could feel the tranquility and peace that God had bestowed upon them. This used to be a royal manor. It had a history of hundreds of years. The Romanesque, Gothic, and Baroque buildings were perfectly blended and complemented each other. It gave people a feeling of classical solemnity and holiness. Now it was the property of Cameron, the chairman of the Glaxo Group, the #1 pharmaceutical company in Europe and the top 5 in the world. Cameron was 50 years old. He had studied at the Royal Academy of Life Sciences and the London School of Economics. He had a double doctorate in finance and biological sciences. Because of his great contributions to the field of life sciences, he was conferred the title of Viscount by the British royal family. Now in the manor, The lights were brilliant and the music was melodious. A grand cocktail party was being held on the lawn to celebrate the fruits of Cameron's most successful investment in his life. Cameron was a man of great taste. He was born in Vienna and he loved opera. His 3 sons and 1 daughter were all well educated and good at singing operas. At the moment, they were singing a part of one of the top 10 operas in the world, Jester, in front of their father. Love is the sun of the soul. It is above all. Lovely girl, love me, as I love you dearly. Gentle words filled my young girl's heart. It was like the voice of the heavens. The deep bass and the sonorous soprano complemented each other, rising and falling one after another, forming a beautiful duet. The noble gentlemen and elegant ladies around them held their wine glasses and listened quietly. Their eyes were shining with admiration. It's so moving, it's so nice. It's even better than the professional actors of the National Grand Theatre. No wonder it's called the House of Arts. The song was over. Cameron nodded with a smile and applauded softly. Everyone's emotions surged like a tidal wave, praising him endlessly. Father, your investment this time is really wise. His daughter Lena walked over with a glass of red wine in her hand. Over the past few days, the rich people who didn't participate in the donation to the Dark Congress are all regretting it. They are all trying to please me and ask me to introduce them to the amazing and powerful Nia Yen. Lena was wearing a red evening gown. She was very beautiful, tall and elegant. She was one of the top socialites in Europe, no less than Annalyn of the Rothschild family. Now many sons of tycoons, upstarts, and male celebrities were vying to pursue her. Nia is a true god, a mystical Eastern immortal. Cameron raised his glass of red wine at his daughter, but he snorted coldly in his heart. How could those people get to know each other? If I hadn't started worshipping a powerful count 10 years ago, I wouldn't even have had the chance to see the Demon Lord. There's only one chance. They've already missed it. How can there be a second time? Cameron's eldest son snorted in disdain. He was tall and straight with one hand in his pocket. His face was handsome, and he exuded an air of nobility. He wore a tailcoat tailored for him by a famous Italian fashion designer, just like a real aristocrat. Father, if the Dark Congress wins this time, can we get Sidoni's St. Essence Immortal Healing Village? Cameron's second son asked with a hint of greed in his eyes. If one looked closely, they would find that there was a hint of evil in the depth of his pupils. Even 3 meters away from him, one could feel a clear chill. Immortal Healing Village? That belongs to someone even more powerful. But we can get the patent of all the medicines of the Medicine King Group, Cameron said with a smug smile. Great. If we can get the patent of the Medicine King Group, we are destined to dominate the world and even become the top medical group in the world. His second son said excitedly. That bitch Zhang Wanqing didn't give me face before. Now humph, she's going to be destroyed. Cameron smiled smugly, with a hint of resentment and mockery. Previously, when the Medicine King Group entered the European market, Cameron had met Zhang Wanqing and wanted to get a share of the profits. But how could Zhang Wanqing agree? She declined politely and chose to set up her own sales network. After all, the Medicine King Group's products were so effective that they were already famous all over the world. They didn't need their sales network. From Zhang Wanqing's point of view, it was a normal and reasonable business decision. But Cameron held a grudge. Now, the Dark Congress was about to defeat Tianqing School and invade Sidoni. Cameron was simply overjoyed. He had told the Bloodline Earl not to kill Zhang Wanqing. When the time came, he would visit her in prison and make her kneel on the ground and call him father. At this moment, the third son, who was wearing an aristocratic high school uniform, said worriedly, "But father, I saw some moon-worshipping wolves on the Werewolf Home Forum. They said that Immortal Jiang is also very powerful. He chose to enter the sword's grave and won't die. Also, rumor has it that there was an earth-shattering explosion on the Sword Tomb Island a few days ago. Could it be that Kong Teichu is still alive?" "My cute little brother, you think too much." Lena was full of mockery and disdain. "Also, the news on the Werewolf Home Forum is fake. Only idiot high school students like you would believe it." Haha, even if Kong Teichu isn't dead, he's still nothing compared to the Genyu Demon King. Cameron laughed heartily. Our family is destined to be revitalized. So what if Kong Taechu is alive? If he dares to come, I'll kill him with one punch. Cameron's second son said arrogantly and haughtily. He was once purified by the blood breed that the family worshipped. To put it bluntly, he was tainted with part of the blood breed's blood. In terms of strength, he was a viscount of the blood breed. Excuse me, are you going to kill me with one punch? Suddenly, a mocking voice sounded out of nowhere. Everyone looked up. They saw a Wuxia young man in a plain long robe standing proudly in the air. He appeared 100 meters above the manor. Who is it? Lena was shocked. Then, she forced a smile as if to comfort herself. Is he hooked on a wire? It's Kong Taechu. Cameron's face stiffened as if he had lost his parents. Deep fear appeared in the depths of his eyes. Kaboom! There was no need for him to give the order. A group of well-trained bodyguards in black rushed out with all kinds of guns in their hands and fired at Jiang Tian. Jiang Tianli did not care about the incoming bullets. He casually took out a flying sword, and with a whoosh he rushed over. In just a second, more than 30 bodyguards in black were penetrated and fell to the ground like rain. In a blink, a few transcendent overlords who had awakened their bodies rushed out of the manor and came to the lawn. They all looked at Jiang Tian in shock. Kong Taechu is here. Oh God, he's not dead. It seems that the Dark Council has also failed. What should we do? A few experts were hesitating whether or not they should fight to the death. Kong Taechu of Tianqing School wants to eliminate the remaining forces of the Dark Council. Anyone who stands in his way will die. Jiang Tian's voice contained a strand of divine sense, and it smashed down like a bolt of lightning, shaking the entire manor to the point that the ground and mountains shook. A few grandmasters in Europe vomited blood and knelt on the ground, trembling. Jiang Tian's lips curled into a cold smile. With a wave of his hand, Cameron's second son involuntarily flew into Jiang Tian's hand. He grabbed Jiang Tian's arm with both hands and his face turned purple. It seemed that he wanted to explain something. Unfortunately, he shouldn't have offended Kong Taechu. Jiang Tian clenched his right hand, directly crushing his neck into pieces. The man's eyes were bulging and his tongue was sticking out. He couldn't explain a word even if he had the chance. Because he shouldn't have offended Kong Taechu. Jiang Tian patted the sky-devouring magic gourd and directly threw the man's body into it. Cameron was furious when he saw his son was killed, but he immediately suppressed his anger and bowed deeply. God, as long as you let my family go, I will give you all my family property. However, he never had the chance to raise his head again. Because he shouldn't have offended Kong Taechu. Did you know that Nathan from the Rothschild family said the same thing? His wealth is about the same as yours. Haven't you heard of his story and his ending? Jiang Tian landed on the ground and flicked his finger. With a chi sound, Cameron's head exploded. Jiang Tian didn't have any pity in his eyes. After throwing Cameron's body into the gourd, the others had already reacted and fled in all directions. God, don't kill me. I'm your worshipper and a user of the dark net. I've always been cheering for you. I don't agree with my father's decision, but no one believes me. Seeing Jiang Tian slowly walking towards him, Cameron's third son, who was in high school, was so scared that he wet his pants and fell to the ground. He kicked his feet on the ground and trembled as he stepped back and begged with tears in his eyes. In your next life, if you encounter something like this again, you can choose to cut ties and leave the family. A voice as cold as winter came from Jiang Tian's mouth. A black soul devourer emerged and swallowed his soul. The young man's body stiffened and his eyes turned gray. He had already lost all signs of life and died an unnatural death. However, he was able to leave his corpse intact. This was already Jiang Tian's greatest mercy. At this moment, Lena's face turned pale. She ran toward the door in her high heels with tears on her face. She didn't want to die. Her wealth was comparable to that of a country. Her status was high. Her life was luxurious, and she had many gentle and handsome boyfriends. She hadn't enjoyed all of this enough. However, how could she escape from Jiang Tian's pursuit? Jiang Tian's right hand made a grabbing motion. She had already flown back dozens of meters, and her slender neck fell into Jiang Tian's large hand. Lena's slender body trembled violently. Her full breasts rippled, revealing a large area of her snowy white skin. A pair of astonishingly long and slender jade-like legs were moving crazily, and pale yellow urine was flowing down along her legs. Deep fear appeared in her beautiful eyes. She didn't want to die. She screamed and begged for mercy. Unfortunately, she shouldn't have offended Kong Taechu. Without hesitation, Jiang Tian broke her neck and stored her body in the sky-devouring demonic gourd. Chapter 791. There were already 4 corpses floating in the sky-devouring magic gourd. After that, Jiang Tian killed all 23 members of Cameron's family. Their souls were devoured by the soul devourer, and their corpses were tossed into the sky-devouring magic gourd. Then he ascended into the sky and flew away. How did the Cameron family offend Jiang Taichu, this killing god? Many of the guards were spared because they had knelt down in time. But now, they were scared out of their wits and their faces were pale. They offended Kong Taechu and didn't tell us. Are they trying to kill us? Some of the guards were so angry that their faces turned green. They wanted to kill a few of the Cameron family members to vent their anger. Cameron also had a younger brother who was having fun in a bar. After receiving the message from his family's bodyguard, he had already taken a private jet and fled into the distance. However, how could he possibly escape from Jiang Tian's pursuit? Jiang Tian was going to start a massacre and make a tower of bones for the upper class of the European Union. He had to get the corpses. Otherwise, he could use Cameron's bloodline to cast the karmic severing curse and kill him easily from 100 miles away. Jiang Tian waved his hand and used Cameron's remaining blood to create a talisman in the air. A red dot immediately appeared in his divine sense. A Gulfstream V private jet streaked across the sky and flew into the distance. Its destination was the United States. In the eyes of Cameron's brother, only the United States could protect him. After all, it was the world's largest country. At this moment he was sitting on pins and needles in his seat. He kept calling his friends who held important positions in the military, hoping that they would send fighter jets to protect him. However, his fate was already sealed because his clan had offended Jiang Taichu's name. The Austrian military was scared out of their wits. They didn't dare to offend Jiang Tian. Otherwise, Austria would end up like France. They would end up like France's President Nicolas Sarkozy. So, they rejected his request without hesitation. When Jiang Tian's figure appeared in the cabin like a ghost, the flight attendants were scared out of their wits. Many of the stewardesses were scared out of their wits. They cowered under their chairs, not daring to move. The man knew that his time was up. His phone slipped to the ground. He forced himself to calm down and begged in despair. I only ask that immortal Jiang leave my corpse intact. That decision was my brother's own will. Jiang Tian did not say a word. Without waiting for him to finish speaking, he flicked his finger and a golden light pierced through his chest. The man immediately died. After collecting the soul, Jiang Tian didn't say a word. His figure flickered as he left the cabin and flew off into the distance. Morning, Venice, Italy. Alleys meandered, and the Grand Canal passed through bridges of various styles, flowing unhurriedly. An ancient building stood by the river. Half of its base had been submerged in the water for hundreds of years. It was surrounded by aquatic plants and covered in layers of moss. Amidst the faint ripples, the orange-red, beige, bright red, and pink-white walls were brimming with different styles, like a beautiful gouache painting. In a deserted alley, Jiang Tian suddenly appeared and walked out unhurriedly. He was dressed in casual clothes like an ordinary tourist. While sightseeing, he made a phone call and said in a commanding tone, "Jung, if the news is leaked and these people start to escape, I will hold you responsible." "Yes, Master Kong. Don't worry, these people will definitely not be able to escape. They are all restricted from leaving the country." On the other side of the phone, the President of the European Union said while wiping cold sweat. Jiang Tian hung up the phone and swaggered toward a castle-like building. Suddenly, a soft voice sounded in his ears. "Jiang Tian, why are you here? Who are you talking to on the phone? You are so domineering." Jiang Tian turned around to look. It was actually an old acquaintance, Donghai's socialite Fu Lanjun. But since Jiang Tian left Donghai, he had never seen her again. Later, Mr. Tang occasionally mentioned that she did not marry Tang Jianfeng and was able to enter the Tang family. After not seeing her for a few years, this woman was now wearing jewelry and branded clothes, armed to the teeth. Her jade face was shining, and she was more dignified, elegant, and noble than before. It seemed that she was living a good life. But after all, she was an irrelevant person. Jiang Tian did not bother to pay attention to her. Without saying a word, he turned around and continued to walk toward the magnificent castle. Jiang Tian, I heard that you later made a comeback in Sidonie? The Medicine King Group is sold all over the world. Fu Lanjun followed him gracefully in her black Gucci high heels as she said with a charming smile. But anyone could hear the sarcasm in her tone. Since Jiang Tian's rise, Fu Lanjun had been paying close attention to Jiang Tian's news. She did not know about other things such as Jiang Tian's victory over Dongyang, Singapore, Liu family, Song family, France, and so on. Because this news was originally a secret in the dark world, only people who reached a certain plane knew about it. And the information control departments of the major countries were strictly on guard, crazily deleting posts to cover up the truth. But she knew that Jiang Tian had defeated the three major families in Jinling City, and the Medicine King Group's market value had exceeded 100 billion. At that time, she was so regretful that her intestines turned green. Later, she heard from some big shots in Yanjin that the Medicine King Group had offended the Liu family and Song family, and the Medicine King Group had been withdrawn from the market and moved overseas. And now, the European Union had announced that they would compensate the Medicine King Group for $100 billion and ban the products of the Medicine King Group. Now that the Medicine King Group had been withdrawn from the market and became a private company, many people did not know about its assets. In Fu Lanjuan's impression, it was still a pharmaceutical company with a market value of 100 billion renminbi. In this case, even 5 or 6 Medicine King Group would not be enough to compensate. Jiang Tian, you came to the Donald family to ask for help or financing, right? Fu Lanjun still had a smile on her face, but her heart was full of contempt and disdain. Now that you are a phoenix without feathers, you are even worse than a chicken. And you still put on a stinky face and ignore me? Do you still think you are the same old man? In her mind, the Medicine King Group had failed completely. Although Jiang Tian knew some basic Dharma spells, he was no match for the powerful figures in Europe. You know about the Donald family? Jiang Tian was taken aback, so he turned around and asked. The Donald family is the leader of the Italian mafia. Fu Lanjun raised her chin and said proudly. They have hundreds of thousands of disciples and are as powerful as the Hong sect, the Big Circle, and the Number Gang. In Europe, Mr. Donald is someone who can talk to the heads of state on an equal footing. He can even talk to the president of the European Union, Jung. Jiang Tian's face remained impassive. Seeing Jiang Tian's deadpan face, Fu Lanjun felt even more hatred, disdain, and anger. She said arrogantly, I am lucky. I'm very lucky. I'm now Donald's second son, John's girlfriend. I can say a few words to him. If you bow and apologize now, I'll introduce you and put in a few good words for you. Then, she looked at Jiang Tian with a half-smile, as if she was waiting for Jiang Tian to bow to her. She hated Jiang Tian to the core. She would never forget how she and her father, Fu Leiming, were forced to kneel and kowtow to Jiang Tian in front of everyone at the Tang family's apprenticeship ceremony, and were kicked out of the Tang family. After that, she seemed to have gained a lot of motivation. She worked hard to climb up the social ladder and get to know more powerful people. In the end, she was able to climb up the social ladder of the Donald family. Now she thought that after marrying into a rich family, she could finally suppress Jiang Tian. How could she not ruthlessly take revenge for what happened back then? Bow to you and apologize? Who do you think you are? Jiang Tian shook his head with a disdainful smile. I don't deserve your respect. I am the future daughter-in-law of the Donald family. Isn't that enough? Fu Lanjun was stunned and didn't bother to explain. I am about to destroy the Donald family. Later, I will kill you too. Jiang Tian walked leisurely to a cafe on the side of the street. He had just scanned the area with his divine sense, and found that several family members were still on their way back. In any case, There was absolutely no problem in killing these people who did not even have the strength to truss a chicken. Jiang Tian did not mind waiting patiently. What did you say? Do you know what the Donald family means? Do you know how much money they have and how much power they have? Fu Longjuan's beautiful eyes widened as she stared at Jiang Tian's back. She couldn't believe it and shouted. You are ignorant and fearless. Do you think this is the East Sea, the Wuxia, where you can behave atrociously? How dare you threaten me? I am already the daughter-in-law of the Donald family. Just wait for your death. I will ask them to come out and kill you later. However, Jiang Tian ignored her and entered the cafe. He ordered some coffee and a simple meal and slowly enjoyed it. He is crazy. He must be crazy. His mental illness is acting up again. The woman's father, Fu Laming, came out of a black Mercedes-Benz and shook his head disdainfully. How dare he offend the Donald family, the leader of the mafia? If he is not crazy, then what is? Yes. Fu Longjun didn't want to argue with a nobody like Jiang Tian. She even said with a little sympathy, the Medicine King group is finished now. He must have been stimulated and went crazy again. His brain is not very good in the first place. Well, let's go. Fu Laming's father touched a sandalwood box in his hand, and a trace of nervousness flashed across his face. Alas, our status is too low. Mr. Donald has always looked down on us. Now he just wants to let his son be the third wife. He is very picky. You must perform well later. While talking, the father and daughter walked into the manor of the Donald family after many checks by the guards. Half an hour later, Jiang Tian scanned with his divine sense and found that several core members of the Donald family had also returned home. He also finished the simple meal and calmly wiped his mouth with a tissue. Almost everyone is here. It's time to exterminate the family. Jiang Tian left 100 suo yuan for the meal and tip, walked out of the cafe and leisurely walked towards the manor. Chapter 792. For the past few days, the head of the Italian mafia, Mr. Donald, had been feeling uneasy. The Covenant of Darkness had arrived at Sidoni's North Bay for 2 days, but there had been no news. At this time he regretted his decision. It was too risky. If the Covenant of Darkness failed, if Kong Taichu did not die, then the Tang family and the entire mafia would face a disaster. However, Nieming Yuan's promise was too tempting for him to refuse. After destroying Tianqing School, the Covenant of Darkness would help the mafia kill the Yamaguchi group and take over the Japanese and American markets. If they succeeded, then the mafia would dominate the world, achieving great achievements that would last for thousands of years and create history. At this time, facing Fu Longjun and Li Tianlan, Donald said a few perfunctory words, then asked them to sit down and ignored them. He was not even interested in looking at the pair of Yuan dynasty blue and white porcelain vases that they had given him. He had to deal with some urgent matters in case of an accident. Around him, dozens of men in black stood in great numbers, their waists bulging with hard weapons. However, Donald knew that it was impossible for these small-caliber firearms to kill the masters of Tianqing School. They were like fire sticks. Number 3. Go and contact the major munitions factories in the United States, and buy some portable laser weapons. Number 2. Contact the Blackwater Company and the other top 3 mercenary organizations in the world, and choose some capable people to strengthen our security and defense. You go to London and contact those black magicians and alchemists. I once sponsored them with millions of euros. Now it's time for them to return the favor. You go to the Italian police headquarters. I want them to be stationed in the family and protect us 24/7. You go to Sidonia and ask for information. If the situation is unfavorable, immediately pay a visit to Madame Zhao Xueqing to express our friendly attitude and donate 10 billion euros to their country. Donald's face was solemn, and his eyes flashed coldly. He gave 7 or 8 orders in a row before his heart gradually calmed down. Mr. Donald, you're very smart. You're betting on both sides. But isn't it a little too late to bet on Sidoni now? At this time, a tall and imposing figure walked in unhurriedly with his hands behind his back and sneered. Jiang Tian, you really dare to come in? Fu Longjun was shocked, and then she screamed like a cat whose tail had been stepped on. Mr. Donald, He was the one who was disrespectful to you and threatened to kill you. What a joke. The father and daughter of the Fu family had wanted to complain, but halfway through, Mr. Donald ignored them and started to deal with his work. Kong Taechu, you didn't die. Donald knew Jiang Tian. After all, at his level, if he still couldn't find any information about Kong Taechu, then he would be too useless. What? Do you really want me to die? Jiang Tian said with a smile. Mr. Kong Taechu, I was confused. I was fooled by the Covenant of Darkness and Nye Mingyuan. Donald was so frightened that his body trembled. He knelt on the ground and said with a trembling voice, "Please be magnanimous and spare my life. I am willing to give you all of the Donald family's assets." Donald's sons, some were lawyers, some were accountants, some were strategists, and some were commanders. They were all scared out of their wits and knelt on the ground one after another. Fu Lanjun was dumbfounded when she saw her boyfriend, John, also kneeling. She couldn't believe it. Donald knelt in front of Jiang Tian? This was the leader of the mafia, the famous Mr. Donald. Why did her boyfriend and his family have to kneel in front of Jiang Tian? In her opinion, even if Jiang Tian had some power, Donald was a tycoon in a developed country. How could Jiang Tian compare to him? "John, why did you kneel in front of him?" Fu Lanjun yelled. "He can't do it anymore. The Medicine King Group has been banned by the European Union, and they are demanding huge compensation. He is trash now." She couldn't accept it. She couldn't accept it. She had climbed the social ladder for so long and slept with so many people. She had endured endless humiliation and suffering before she finally entered the rich. But she was suppressed by Jiang Tian again. That was impossible. There must be a mistake. Donald's family didn't understand the situation and misunderstood something. "Mr. Donald, get up. You must have made a mistake." Fu Laming also stood up and said mockingly, "He is crazy. Haha, his brain is not very good to begin with." "Shut up." John was scared out of his wits after hearing their words. He jumped up and slapped Fu Lanjun in the face. Fu Lanjun staggered and fell to the ground. Her face was swollen and blood flowed out of her mouth. Her teeth flew and her head was buzzing. "You hit me? Why did you hit me?" She covered her face with tears in her eyes. She couldn't believe it. "Hit you? I want to kill you. How dare you disrespect Master Kong?" John roared angrily. He pulled out a pistol from his underling and shouted, "Kneel down! Kneel down to Grandmaster Jiang." Rumor had it that Kong Taechu had been trapped by the Covenant of Darkness. But he was still alive and had come to find him. He had defeated the Covenant of Darkness and had begun to eliminate his henchmen. This crazy woman dared to disrespect Kong Taechu and call him crazy. "Isn't she pushing me into the fire pit?" Who was Kong Taechu? That was a ferocious existence that could easily wipe out entire clans and destroy cities and countries. Even France had been defeated by him. No matter how powerful the Donalds family and the Italian mafia were, could they compare with the hundreds of thousands of modern French soldiers? It would be a piece of cake for him to kill Donald and destroy the Covenant of Darkness. It was over. At this moment, John really wanted to cry but had no tears. It was really over. It was completely over. "Didn't you say that you really loved me? Although you wouldn't give me a title, you would protect me for the rest of my life?" Fu Lanjun couldn't believe it. She got up, waved her hands and shouted hysterically, "In Wuxia, this trash man forced me to kneel down. Why didn't you avenge me? You even hit me for him. Your family is a mafia family. Where's your prestige? Where's your domineering aura?" Fu Lanjuan's understanding of the world had always been limited to experience and superficial appearances. She didn't know what a mafia family meant, let alone what the name Kong Taechu meant. She didn't realize that John really wanted to kill her. The gun in her hand wasn't to scare children. The mafia is nothing compared to Master Kong. I'm afraid that even the president of the European Union would have to kneel down when he sees him. John was furious. He didn't want to waste time talking nonsense. He shot Fu Lanjuan's snow-white thigh. Bang! Blood spurted out. The blood flowing down Fu Lanjuan's snow-white thigh was like a cold plum blossom blooming. It was very beautiful. Ow! Fu Lanjun was in so much pain that she screamed like a pig being slaughtered. She hugged her thigh and rolled on the ground, leaving a trail of scarlet blood on the ground. At this moment, she still couldn't believe that John shot her because of Jiang Tian. All of this was like a nightmare. How dare you disrespect Master Kong? Today, I will kill you to quench Master Kang's thunderous anger. John's expression was cold and his eyes were cold. John, Mr. Donald, Jiang Tian, please spare my life. This time, Fu Lanjun was really scared. She endured the pain and knelt down. She wailed, trembled, and begged. Master Kong, after all, we're all descendants of the Yan Huang dynasty. Blood is thicker than water. Help me say something. Seeing that the gun was fired, Fu Laming was scared out of his wits. He broke out in a cold sweat and trembled nonstop. He also knelt down. You want me to bow and apologize to you outside the door? Do you still think you have the right to do so? Jiang Tian said calmly. I didn't. Fu Lanjuan's eyes were like rotten peaches. Her beautiful face was like a pear blossom in the rain. Her jade-white hands were placed in front of her chest, shaking rapidly. How dare you ask Master Kong to bow and apologize to you? You're asking for death. John's face hardened as he shot her in the other leg. Donald, who was kneeling on the ground, saw this and nodded silently. John was smart and quick to the point. Killing a woman to show respect to Master Kong was worth it. Hopefully Master Kang's anger would be quenched. John, I know I was wrong. Jiang Tian, let me go this time. I won't do it again. Fu Lanjun was like a bitch that had been beaten several times. She screamed and rolled on the ground. The wounds on her legs were bleeding profusely. She was so scared that she peed her pants. Trash woman, you dog. How dare you provoke Master Kong Teichu? Go to hell. This time, John raised the gun and aimed at Fu Lanjuan's head. Jiang Tian, I know I was wrong. Help me say something. I don't want to die. I really don't want to die. Seeing this, Fu Lanjun was scared out of her wits. She moved her knees and crawled toward Jiang Tian like a stray dog. She kept kowtowing and crying. Fu Laming's face was as white as a sheet. He broke out in cold sweat and trembled. He could not say a word. At this moment, he regretted it very much. Even if Medicine King Group was really going to collapse, a starving camel was still bigger than a horse. How could Jiang Tian allow himself to be humiliated? What was even more unexpected was that he could suppress the Donald family. From what John said, even the president of the European Union was afraid of him. What kind of person could he be? What a terrifying power. How could he be so blind to provoke him? At this time, it was too late to say anything. Calling the police was useless. The Italian police did not dare to offend the Donald family. Didn't you want to help me? You can talk to them, right? Aren't you the future daughter-in-law of the Donald family? Why are you begging me? Jiang Tian smiled indifferently. Although he was too lazy to kill an easy girl like Fu Lanjun, he had no sympathy and would not stop others from killing her. There were so many good young men in Wuxia. Why did you have to find a triad? You even shamelessly gave gifts and begged to be his mistress. You are so proud of it. You are not ashamed of it, but proud of it. Women in Wuxia were disgraced by this kind of woman. She was dead. Chapter 793. Jiang Tian, I know I was wrong. Fu Lanjun begged with tears and snot running down her face. Give me one more chance. I won't dare to offend you again. As long as you speak, I can live. Her hair was messy, her face was covered in dirt, and she stank. She was more miserable than a beggar on the street. She didn't look like a socialite at all. If she stood on the street, someone would definitely throw a few coins at her. Under the intense pain and fear, Fu Lanjun felt like her brain was about to snap. Her body was not under the control of her brain and nerves. Her feces and urine flowed out uncontrollably from between her legs. In your eyes, I'm just a crazy idiot. Since when did my words matter? Jiang Tian's eyes were cold and emotionless. Bang! A piece of skull flew out in a mix of brain matter and blood. Fu Lanjun fell to the ground on her back. John had shot her in the head. That pair of clear eyes were still wide open, still filled with deep fear and unwillingness. It was as if she couldn't believe that she would die in such a miserable way in a foreign country. Her dream of being rich was shattered. Fu Laming got up and ran outside amidst the screams. But John would not let him escape. He fired a few shots and turned him into a sieve. He fell to the ground dead. Immortal Jiang, the Donald family is willing to serve Master Kong for life. We are loyal and will obey your orders. Donald was kowtowing like a chick pecking at rice. He had a flattering smile on his face. Master Kong, you already control the big circle, Yamaguchi-gumi, and the mafia with hundreds of thousands of members. It means that the entire world is yours. Of course, in the eyes of a real god like you, Master Kong, the societies are trash and can't be shown in public. But sometimes the societies are also useful. The leader of the mafia, whose name shook the world, no longer had his usual arrogance and majesty. Instead, he was full of begging and fawning. If there was a tail on his butt, he could probably wag it. He lowered his voice and guided patiently. He was very provocative. Just like when you suppressed the Rothschild family and sang Chi. Didn't Japan's Yamaguchi-gumi and America's big circle play a big role? Jiang Tian looked at him with a faint smile. At this time, facing the threat of life and death, he could still be so calm and say such words. As expected of an ambitious and ruthless character, it was no wonder that he could control one of the largest societies in the world. Hee, what you said makes sense. If I kill your whole family, it may be difficult to control the mafia, Jiang Tian said slowly. That's true. The mafia is highly organized and extremely loyal. It's all centered around the family. Donald's face lit up. He had finally escaped with his life. However, the next moment, Jiang Tian flicked his sleeves and stood with his hands behind his back. But if I don't kill a few people as punishment, how will the world know that I, Kong Tae-chu, cannot be provoked? How about this? You pick out a direct descendant and kill him for me. Consider this as an explanation for me. As soon as he said this, Donald's sons all turned as pale as paper and became anxious. Donald's expression was calm. He had hunted countless women in his life. Other than the 8 sons in the family, he also had many illegitimate children. In total, there were more than 30 of them. Losing 1 or 2 was not a big loss. Donald's eyes flashed coldly as he glanced at his 8 sons. The 8 sons' faces changed drastically. Their eyes were evasive and pitiful. Their bodies trembled, and they could not even stand properly. John. Suddenly, he raised his hand and pointed at John, his face cold. John's face changed drastically. He threw away his gun and knelt on the ground. Tears welled up in his eyes as he shouted, "Dad, why do you want to kill me? All these years, the most dangerous missions in the family have been carried out by me. I am loyal to the family. Don't you see? Didn't you say that you wanted to train me and let me inherit the throne of the party leader? Why are you now? You are all my sons. I can't bear to let you all die." Donald's white hair trembled slightly. He sighed as if he was in a difficult and sad situation. But for the family, I have to make this difficult decision. You also know that Master Kong is not someone our family can afford to offend. However, Jiang Tian discovered that a hint of coldness flashed through his eyes. Haha, just as I expected. This is interesting. Jiang Tian's divine perception swept across the few of them. A mocking smile appeared on his lips as he looked on coldly. John, don't worry. We will give you a proper burial. We will never forget the sacrifice you made for the family. Although the other 7 sons were comforting John, they actually heaved a long sigh of relief in their hearts. This was human nature. Even if they were blood brothers, in a moment of life and death, it would be best for them to die instead of themselves. John, this is Father's decision. You have to follow it strictly. You also know that you can't run away. Someone was afraid that John would resist, and even threatened him directly. He took out his gun and loaded it. John's body trembled violently. His eyes swept across his father and his brothers, and his expression changed rapidly. There was fear, anger, hatred, unwillingness, and confusion. But in the end, his gaze gradually became resolute. He took a deep breath and stood up. All right, for the family, I'm willing to die. Immortal Jiang, please do it. A fearless expression appeared on his face. He stepped forward and said, But Master Kong, please keep your promise. All right. Jiang Tian nodded. Zhang closed his eyes. A trace of despair appeared on his face. The entire hall was silent. The solemn atmosphere was suffocating. After what seemed like an instant, but also like 10,000 years, an ear-piercing whistle suddenly sounded. 9 flying swords broke through the air and circled around the hall like streaks of green rainbow. Finally, they all flew out of the hall together. Donald grunted. His expression changed drastically, as if he was greatly surprised. He knelt there motionlessly. Next to him, a female paranormal who was guarding the courtyard screamed loudly. Many guards saw it. Donald, his 7 sons other than John, and a few other strategists all had blood spurting out of their necks. They fell to the ground, dead in the blink of an eye, and lay there motionless. Outside the courtyard, a series of shrill screams sounded. It was short and hurried. Apparently, they had died in an instant. In fact, such screams could be heard from dozens of kilometers away, and even 200 kilometers away, in less than a minute. Swoosh, 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 swoosh. The 9 flying swords all flew back. Several corpses were hanging on them like candied haws. There were dozens of corpses in total. After hovering for a while, the flying swords all went into the sky-devouring demonic gourd at Jiang Tian's waist. In the hall, in the manor, there were bloodstains everywhere. Except for John, the entire Donald family had been wiped out. Only John was still standing there alone, looking at Jiang Tian in disbelief. Immortal Jiang, why is this? Jiang Tian glanced at John and said with his divine sense, "Do a thorough check." Do a thorough check. You can also do a simple genetic comparison. You're not Donald's biological son. Your biological father is someone else. No wonder I always carry out those assassination missions. Father said it was to train me. John stood there with a pale face. His heart had stopped, and he felt like he was about to suffocate. Everything that had happened today had given him too much of a shock, and his heart was unable to bear it. But at least on the surface, you are Donald's biological son. Jiang Tian put the corpses in the hall into the sky-devouring demonic gourd, stepped in the pool of blood, and said with his divine sense, "Now all the descendants of the Donald family have been killed. From now on, the Donald family and the mafia will be yours." John immediately reacted. He bent his knees and knelt before Jiang Tian. His face was filled with gratitude. John will never forget Immortal Jiang's great kindness and benevolence. From now on, the mafia will follow Master Kang's orders. From now on, the mafia will follow Master Kang's orders. The others also knelt on the ground and kowtowed to Jiang Tian like believers seeing a god. Their voices were like rolling thunder. "I have a friend named Zhang Qianlei who seems to have disappeared somewhere in Europe. It should be related to the Blood Clan. Help me investigate. Someone will contact you later." Jiang Tian stepped into the air and disappeared into the sky. At that time, Blood Ancestor Cain was fleeing at top speed. Just as he was about to rush out of the barrier, Jiang Tian acted too hastily and directly killed him. But Jiang Tian still did not know where Zhang Qianlei was. As a result, the entire Sidoni Intelligence Department, Big Circle, and Yamaguchi-gumi were now under orders to search. In fact, Jiang Tian did not kill John because he was interested in the mafia's power was only a small part of the reason. It was more because he needed to use the mafia's power to find Zhang Qianlei's whereabouts. After all, the mafia was the largest society in Europe with hundreds of thousands of members. It was a bit faster than any intelligence agency. After Jiang Tian left for a long time, John dared to stand up and look at the crowd with a dignified gaze. "Everything that happened today will rot in your stomachs. Otherwise, you will be killed without mercy." France, Paris, the city of romance. It had been a long time since Jiang Tian defeated Paris. Everything here was recovering. The broken Arc de Triomphe, the Élysée Palace, the Eiffel Tower. They were either rebuilt or repaired. People seemed to have forgotten their pain. They forgot that not long ago, there was a shocking battle that caused them to lose their rights and humiliate their country. In a presidential suite in a luxurious hotel. "Why isn't Sophie here yet?" James looked at the Rolex Greenwater Ghost watch on his wrist and anxiously waited for his sister's arrival. The Tantorn family, which James belonged to, was originally a large family in France second only to the Rothschild family. Its industries included gold, jewelry, finance, military, wine, hotels, shipping, nuclear power, and other industries. Its assets were worth €5 billion. Even the famous Bordeaux winery belonged to their family. After the fall of the Rothschild family and President Sanchi, the Tantorn family had risen to become the first family in France. The rise of the Tantorn family was also due to their cooperation with the California Consortium to acquire the Luo family's industry. As the first heir of the Tantorn family, James was very satisfied with his life. He had inexhaustible wealth, the right to speak directly with the French president, a beautiful wife and concubines, and so on. In particular, he was very proud of his latest venture capital. He donated €30 million as the capital for the Covenant of Darkness to attack Sidonie and destroy Tianqing School. Chapter 794. And the Covenant of Darkness also promised that once they took down Sidonie, the military industry there would belong to the Tantorn family. It was said that Sidonie had developed many advanced weapons that could surpass the 5 major countries in the world. There are 3 best ways to make money in the world. The first is war, the second is war, and the third is still war. This was the dogma of the Tantorn family, and James also regarded it as a standard. But now that peace and development had become the theme of the world, controlling war was not so easy. Today his youngest sister, Sophie, came back from the Art Institute of the University of Paris and met with him. Thinking of this charming little sister of his lower abdomen began to heat up. He and Sophie had a secret that no one knew. The two of them had had sex when they were young. Although James knew that his little sister was naturally flirtatious, had many partners, and even had an ambiguous relationship with many uncles in the family, he didn't care at all. When he thought of his little sister's delicate skin and exquisite curves, he couldn't help but let his imagination run wild. In his excitement, he took a blue pill and waited anxiously. A few minutes later, the door opened. A delicate body wearing designer clothes and exuding a seductive fragrance quickly jumped into his arms. At this time, Jiang Tian had already started a massacre in the Tantorn Manor in the southern suburbs of Paris. He killed more than a dozen family members and sacrificed the bodies into the sky-devouring magic gourd. At this time, there were already more than 500 bodies floating in his sky-devouring magic gourd. In France, he had killed the most people. He had killed more than 300 people. Perhaps Jiang Tian destroyed Paris back then. So many French nobles and plutocrats hated him. These people were all secular families, and naturally, they didn't have the strength to challenge Jiang Tian. They only had money. So, they hid behind and secretly supported Nie Mingyuan and the Covenant of Darkness. They thought that this was a very safe and cost-effective transaction. If the Covenant of Darkness won, they would get excessive profits. But if they lost, they would only lose 1 or 200 million euros, or even tens of millions. But they didn't know. All of this couldn't escape the eyes of Sidonie's Special Intelligence Agency, and the investigation of Hera and the others. It had to be said that James and Sophie were much luckier than the other Tantorn family members. At least they still enjoyed the pleasure of the bed before they died. After a series of rapid growls, James got up from Sophie and sensed something was wrong. He turned around and saw a Wuxia youth with a gloomy temperament looking at him with a mocking expression. Just as he was about to speak, the man's finger moved, and that was the last thing he saw in this world. As for Sophie, when she opened her beautiful eyes, what she saw was James' chest being blasted apart by a bolt of lightning. She was startled and immediately screamed. However, before the scream could escape her throat, her head had already fallen to the ground. They were destined to die because they had offended Kong Taichu. After putting the 2 corpses into the sky-devouring demonic gourd, Jiang Tian stepped into the air and disappeared from the room, heading for the next stop. That night, August 1, 2011, in the wee hours of the morning, 23 people from the Carlson family were killed at the Green Vines Club in Germany. After that, Jiang Tian left after killing a total of 120 people from 3 wealthy families in Germany. August 2, in the morning in the Czech Republic, Jiang Tian killed 68 people at Sir Median's house after breakfast. August 3, In Buckingham Palace in England, Jiang Tian beheaded Prince Charles with a sword. 33 royal descendants died an unnatural death. Jiang Tian swept across the world this time. It could be said that he was unstoppable. He killed all those who stood in his way. Even the members of the royal family were not spared or escaped, because he had offended Kang Te-chu. In just a few days, Jiang Tian went around Europe and killed more than 1,200 people. Everyone in the upper class was terrified and in danger. However, this massacre was far from over. There were also a few big families in America and Canada. This was especially true for the U.S. military, which secretly supported Blue Storm. That was the highlight. In the end, the news of Kang Te-chu's strong return, the fall of the Zhenyu Demon King, and the destruction of the Covenant of Darkness began to spread. The world's underground world was dead silent. No one dared to believe this news. Whether it was the many assassin organizations, mercenary groups, or the many dark families, societies, and organizations, no one dared to say a word. Because many people did not believe this news at all. Kang Te-chu, who had been trapped for 4 to 5 months by the day imprisonment array, did not die and had become even stronger. The Covenant of Darkness, which had once slaughtered thousands of miles, had 1,000 years of foundation, and could wrestle with the Holy See, had fallen just like that? The ultimate blood breed, Cain and the 6 blood ancestors, the Wolf King of the Grassland, Gargao, and the invincible Zhenyu Demon King, were so easily killed by Kang Te-chu. The Covenant of Darkness had been hidden in this world for 60 years. However, their glory did not diminish. In the Middle Ages, the blood ancestors and the wolf ancestors swept across the world. They controlled the politics of many countries, and the choice of the royal family. Europe, the Middle East, Southeast Asia, India. The dark overlords in these countries had to obey their orders. In the Middle Ages, where there were many overlords and immortal state warriors, many overlords were under the control of the Covenant of Darkness. But now, they had been wiped out by Kang Te-chu. This sounded like the biggest joke in the world. It was simply too inconceivable. This is shocking. How can Kang Te-chu be so powerful? An overlord with the ID Blade Emperor commented on the dark web. Everyone knew this ID. He was the leader of one of the top 10 mercenaries in the world, the Wolves of the World. It was not as powerful as the Black Water of the United States and the Black Skull of France, but it was still very influential. The ultimate blood ancestor, Cain, is equivalent to an Earth-level deity. Nie Mingyuan is even more powerful than an Earth-level deity. The blood ancestors and the wolf ancestors are all mortal deities. This means that Kang Te-chu alone killed 7 or 8 mortal deities and 2 Earth-level deities. This is incredible. A powerhouse called Demon Hunter Pulsatilla cried out in surprise, cheering for Jiang Tian's valiant battle results. Kang Te-chu upheld justice and saved the world. He is a hero, an invincible hero. Legend had it that Demon Hunter Pulsatilla was the disciple of the top demon hunter in the West, Van Helsing. He had reached the transcendent Grandmaster level at the age of 30. After Nie Mingyuan rose to power, in order to unite the blood breeds, he slaughtered the demon hunters all over the world until their blood flowed like a river. Heads rolled and hundreds of people died. After Jiang Tian defeated the Covenant of Darkness, Pulsatilla cheered for Kang Te-chu and had become Jiang Tian's loyal fan. In the end, because of the great impact of this battle, more and more overlords were exposed. The overlords who were watching the battle were shocked. They were all overlords who were as powerful as immortal state warriors. They had never thought that they would come together to discuss this matter. Hera, the Queen of Heaven, also came out. She seems to have been lurking. Someone exclaimed on the forum. Hera, the Queen of Heaven of the Pantheon, appeared. In the dark world, there were many forces and factions. However, they were generally divided into independent organizations and organizations that were close to the government. There was a clear distinction between them and organizations that did not interact with each other. The Pantheon used to be an organization of overlords funded and supported by the European Union, which was why the European Union relied on it. The other experts, on the other hand, had broken the law with their martial prowess. Many of them had even been suppressed by the Palace of the Gods before, so there was more or less some history between them. Hera smiled and said, This is earth-shattering. I'm also here to join in the fun. After the Covenant of Darkness was completely destroyed, more than half of the Dark Overlords around the world died. The Holy See and Hongmeng went into hiding. I'm afraid the Tianqing school will dominate the dark world today. Upon hearing her words, many of the dark experts felt a pang in their hearts. I heard that Senior Hera had been to the battlefield. How powerful do you think Kong Teichu is? The King of the Blade asked. How powerful is Kong Teichu? He didn't die from the one-day imprisonment array. Is he a sky immortal or even beyond that? Pulsatilla made such a bold guess. He was a demon hunter and had a good relationship with Hera. Beyond the sky immortal holy master. Isn't that a true god? That's impossible. Who has seen a god? It's impossible for it to exist. Many people exclaimed. Kong Teichu didn't allow any videos to be leaked. However, at that time, the Zhenyu Demon King and Cain did show the strength of an Earth Immortal Holy King, but they were still killed by Kong Teichu. Hera introduced. Isn't that the strength of a Sky Immortal Holy Master? When this was said, the entire dark world was in an uproar. A Sky Immortal. This was a mythical figure in the East. For thousands of years, there had been no record of a Sky Immortal. In the West, ever since the death of St. Paul, the last Holy Master of the Holy See, in the 3rd century AD, no one had reached the Sky Immortal level. If Jiang Tian became a Sky Immortal, he would be the most powerful person in the last 1,000 years. Even the superpowers with nuclear weapons would have to be cautious. After all, they had only killed an immortal state warrior in the past. However, a Sky Immortal was not something an immortal state warrior could compare with. It was still unknown whether nuclear weapons could kill a Sky Immortal. We don't know if Kong Teichu is a Sky Immortal Holy Master or not, but we all agree that he has shown such a strong power. You know, the founder of the Hong sect, Situ Shao, had already become an Earth Immortal, but he still bowed down to Chen Fan before entering the Sword Vault. Then, an overlord who was watching the battle in person exclaimed. Even as he said this, the dark web forum was silent. All the overlords were suffocated. There was no point in speculating about Jiang Tian's power. The key was his power. He was already powerful enough to defeat an Earth Immortal. How many people in the world could fight with him? He was invincible. Chapter 795. Then, the news that Jiang Tian had swept across Europe and killed many families spread. Last time, Jiang Tian targeted the henchmen of Martel, the blood god of France. Although he killed a few families that supported him, there weren't many of them, and he mainly killed the remaining members of the kindred. But this time, Jiang Tian killed more than 1,000 people. It could be said that many European families that supported Nie Mingyuan and the Gathering of Darkness were wiped out. For a week, the entire upper-class society of the European Union couldn't sleep and eat well. But the entire European Union, the Joint Conference and the Coalition Army remained silent and didn't dare to say a word. At this time, the leaders of the major countries and forces around the world were terrified. There was no one who wasn't afraid of death. No matter how much power they had, Kong Teichu could easily take their lives. That was the most terrifying thing. From that moment on, in this world, no matter how powerful and extraordinary the forces were, they wouldn't dare to challenge Jiang Tian. Jiang Tian suppressed the entire world by himself. In Buckingham Palace in England, Jiang Tian sat on a throne inlaid with gems and pearls and intricate carvings. Mr. Kong Teichu, please stop. Don't kill anymore. The entire joint conference of the European Union is going to explode. Jung, the president of the European Union, lowered his head and begged. His face was as pale as a sheet of paper, and he was terrified. At this time, he really regretted it and wanted to slap himself a few times to vent his anger. Who would have thought that Master Kong was so powerful that he could survive after being trapped in the day prison array for a few months? And his strength was a bit stronger than before. Who would have thought that the Covenant of Darkness would be defeated so thoroughly? They were completely wiped out and vanished into thin air. They had thought that the Tianqing school and the Gathering of Darkness would fight, and the officials of the European Union would reap the benefits. Who would have thought that Jiang Tian would come to the European continent? Now, the top 33 families in the European Union had been destroyed by Jiang Tian. One had to know that these families were not commoners. They had many enterprises under their names and were involved in many industries. They even controlled the economic lifeline of a country. Now that he was killed, the entire European Union was in chaos. Businesses closed down, workers lost their jobs, capital flowed out, and the euro plummeted. There were demonstrations and demonstrations everywhere, and some organizations even declared revolution. This scene was very similar to what had happened in France not long ago. However, back then it was only France. Now the entire European Union was in trouble. Moreover, there were several heads of state that were not honest. Some heads of state asked Jung to step down, some announced a Brexit vote, and some directly asked for the dissolution of the European Union. What was even more frightening was that it was now the year 2011. Smartphones were everywhere, and all kinds of information were spreading rapidly. Legends of the god Sidoni and other gods were constantly circulating, and the government's credibility was rapidly declining. Many chain reactions were triggered, and the entire European Union was in turmoil. Jung knew that he might end up as miserable as Sanchi. Jung, you should be thanking me. Jiang Tian drank the best red wine from the Bordeaux winery, which was now under his name. He said with a hint of ridicule. Back then, the Covenant of Darkness ran rampant in Europe and committed murder repeatedly. Now, I helped you kill the Covenant of Darkness and its henchmen. Shouldn't you thank me? How can you stop me? Especially those henchmen. They had enough of the peaceful days, right? They insisted on supporting the Covenant of Darkness. They are very confident. Now, I will let them know the consequences of provoking me, Kong Tae-chu. Jiang Tian's words had a hidden meaning. In fact, the first to support the Covenant of Darkness happened to be Jung and the European Union officials. They even wanted to mobilize the European Union coalition to wage war against Sidoni. However, because of the obstruction of some of the big families, the support plan was abandoned halfway. Master Kong, no more people can die. Jung had ulterior motives. How could he not understand? He wanted to cry but had no tears. He only felt that his face had been slapped swollen by Jiang Tian. I don't have any confidence at all now. How could I know that you are so powerful? You haven't died after a few hundred years in the one-day imprisonment array. Jung, do you think that they don't deserve to be killed? Jiang Tian's eyes suddenly became cold and fierce. A vast and surging pressure came crashing down like the Milky Way. Mr. Kong Tae-chu, they deserve to be killed. They deserve to be killed. As the president of the European Union, Jung's temperament was very strong after so many years of ups and downs. But how could he withstand Jiang Tian's monstrous pressure? His knees went soft and he knelt on the ground with a thud. Next to him, Hera saw that the president of the European Union, who had always been arrogant, was so humble in front of Jiang Tian. He didn't even have a trace of dignity. Hera couldn't help but feel pleased. After kneeling, Jung gave up on himself and even felt very comfortable. That's right, standing in front of Jiang Tian was truly unbearable, making one feel tormented. His face was full of flattery, and he said humbly with a smile, "It's just that the ordinary people are innocent. No snowflake is innocent during an avalanche." Jiang Tian's fingers tapped on the golden armrest and said coldly, "What does your life have to do with me?" Master Kong, we have prepared a very sincere agreement. As long as you agree, we will sign it immediately. Jung said with a pleading face. Let me see it. Jiang Tian's eyes were indifferent. The European countries had long been familiar with unequal treaties, such as ceding territory and paying reparations. In recent times, they had used their strong ships and cannons to invade China several times. Which time did they not sign a batch of unequal treaties? But this time, it was unequal to them. Jiang Tian glanced at it. The health departments of the European Union purchased a large number of products from Medicine King Group. Many sanatoriums bought Medicine King Group's patented technology and built immortal sanatoriums. The contract amount was in the trillions of euros. It could be said that Medicine King Group alone could support the entire Sidoni. In addition, Medicine King Group and Sidoni's products exported to the European Union would be exempted from some tariffs. Those who came to invest would also receive all kinds of preferential treatment. Interestingly, even the Chinese medicine of Wuxia, which was considered illegal by the European Union, could be exported to the European Union. Seeing this, Jiang Tian didn't know whether to laugh or cry. One should know that for decades, the Chinese medicine staff of Wuxia had been working hard to open the door to the European Union and the United States, but the results were minimal. The Health Department of the European Union had very strict requirements for Chinese medicine. With dozens of laws such as the Registration of Traditional Plant Medicines Ordinance, it was almost impossible to export Chinese medicine to the European Union. But now, the unintentional willow had grown. In order to please Jiang Tian, the European Union had opened the door to Chinese medicine, which they had previously regarded as superstition. That's it. Although Jiang Tian was quite satisfied, his eyes suddenly turned cold. He sneered and said, "I, Sidoni, am the sixth most powerful country in the world. Since when do I need your money? I think we still need to kill those who supported the Covenant of Darkness. Let's start with you. Master Kong, don't kill me. Don't kill me." Yung was so scared that he almost wet himself. He kowtowed like a chicken pecking rice and cried, "I still have an important secret. You will regret it if you kill me." "What is it? Tell me," Jiang Tian said with a smile. Yung took out a gold key inlaid with diamonds and said with a flattering face, "I used to be the head of the Austrian Defense Intelligence Department and received a piece of news. The Covenant of Darkness has a large treasure vault in the Swiss Alps. And this is the key. It was seized by the Austrians after they killed a powerful figure of the blood kindred in a battle." "So long? Is it still there?" Jiang Tian took the key and fiddled with it as he asked. The key looked like it was made of gold, but it was not ordinary gold. It was faintly purple. Jiang Tian could tell at a glance that this was the immortal purple gold, which could only be refined by self-cultivators who had reached the golden core level. It was a treasure in itself. Jiang Tian had read many books, but he had never found any record of a golden core cultivator on Earth. Jiang Tian was more inclined to believe that the divine purple gold was left on Earth by a powerful cultivator from outer space. After all, the treasured sword of the Amei sword sect of Shu Mountain also came from outer space. Moreover, Jiang Tian also found that although the material was very good, the runes carved on it were not the runes and patterns of the self-cultivators, but some alchemy runes and patterns from the Middle Ages. It was obvious that they were made by the Earthlings. This also confirmed his speculation that the material came from outer space and was used by the Blood Kindred to carve a Dharma artifact to open the seal. "It's still here," Ronggu said hurriedly. "That's one of the nests of the Blood Kindred. Many of them are dormant there, and ordinary armies don't dare to invade." "Good. I'll leave your head with you for now. If you cause any trouble, I'll take it away." Jiang Tian asked for the specific address, then waved his hand and flew away with Hera. "Thank you, Master Kong, for sparing my life." 3 minutes after Jiang Tian left, only then did Ronggu stand up with trembling legs, only to find that his back was already soaked in cold sweat, and it was chilly. Jiang Tian was extremely fast now. He didn't even need a flying sword. In a few hours he had crossed half of the European continent and arrived at a mountain peak in the Alps. Hera, whose waist was held by Jiang Tian, was speechless. Master Kang's speed was terrifying. Without a Dharma artifact, he was 3 or 4 times faster than the speed of sound. If she hadn't reached the immortal state, she wouldn't have been able to withstand it. Interesting. This treasure vault used lead to prevent psychic energy from entering. Jiang Tian chuckled. When Jiang Tian was roaming Europe, he had flown over this mountain peak and scanned it a few times with his divine sense. After all, experts and treasures were often hidden in the famous mountains and rivers since ancient times. Mount Blanc was one of the largest mountains in the Alps. Jiang Tian had no time to look at it, so of course he took a look at it. But he didn't find anything at that time. Only now did he realize that inside the mountain, the entire area around the treasury was completely covered by lead. The psychic energy and physical reflex detection of immortal-level experts were useless. But now that Jiang Tian was using his divine sense, how could it escape Jiang Tian's divine sense? Chapter 796. Jiang Tian jumped a few times and arrived in front of a cliff. He slashed across the sky and shattered the mountain within a few hundred meters. Screams were heard as flesh and blood splashed everywhere. The Count and Duke-level vampires stationed here were all killed with a single slash. After the mountain crumbled for a long time, a wide passageway appeared, extending 100 meters deep into the mountain. Jiang Tian and Jiang Chen flew in. Finally, a golden door that was over 10 meters tall appeared, blocking their path. There were giant braziers on both sides of the gate. Strange gems were piled up in the braziers, emitting a bright light. The golden gate alone weighed dozens of tons, which was equivalent to the gold reserves of some small countries in the Third World. The Gathering of Darkness had been extremely prosperous in history. There was a giant demon head engraved on the golden gate. The demon had a green face and fangs. It opened its bloody mouth and had 2 horns on its head. Its eyes were flashing with a terrifying red light. If ordinary people saw it, they would have been scared out of their wits. Jiang Tian dug out 2 large rubies from the ghost head's eyes and tossed them to Hera. He chuckled and said, "Don't worry." He chuckled and said, "Hera, Zeus has been dead for a long time. No one must have given you a gift. I'll give you 2 gems to make a necklace or ring." Hera knew that Jiang Tian was a very bored person when he wasn't fighting, so she wasn't angry. She threw the gems into her pocket and smiled. "If I wear such a large ruby on my hand, I'm afraid I'll be so tired that I'll get shoulder pain." While talking, Jiang Tian had already inserted the purple golden key into the demon's mouth. There was only a rumble. There was a loud noise. Waves of magical power rippled out from the evil demon's head until they covered the entire golden door. Then the golden gate seemed to be alive. It shrank into the walls on both sides and the treasury was finally revealed. Hera followed Jiang Tian into the treasury. Hera immediately sucked in a breath of cold air. Her beautiful eyes widened, revealing an expression of shock and disbelief. The treasury was 100 meters wide and was surrounded by golden light and spirit chi. This was especially true for the dozen or so streaks of spiritual light that blossomed with multicolored splendor. The flowing lights and vibrant colors made them appear even more extraordinary. There are 10 quasi-spirit treasures. 3 spiritual treasures. Jiang Tian clicked his tongue in disbelief. Before Jiang Tian came here, even though he knew that this was the 1,000-year treasure of the Dark Parliament, he didn't expect it to be so rich. In the battle at the North Bay of Sidoni, so many experts of the Dark World had come out in full force, and they must have used all their treasures. How many treasures could they have left? However, Jiang Tian forgot one thing. There were also some treasures that the experts of the Dark Parliament couldn't use. This is the sacred blood magic robe. Legend has it that it was stained with the holy blood left behind by Messiah when she was suffering, and it had been refined by many popes. It was once worn by a red-robed archbishop, and its defensive capabilities are astonishing. This is the bloodthirsty Wolf King's meteoric iron wolf claw. It should be a trophy from the battle between the Blood Clan and the werewolves. This is the golden puppet of the great golden wheel Dharma King, the reincarnated Buddha of the Tibetan Tantric sect. It once killed an evil divine realm expert. The more Hera looked, the more shocked she became. These were all legendary quasi-spirit treasures that had once shone in history. She didn't expect that they would be collected here by the Dark Parliament. As for the Dharma artifacts, gold, jewelry, and jade, they were as vast as the sea, and Jiang Tian and Hera didn't care about them at all. What is this? It seems to be the divine bone scepter of the Austrian red-robed archbishop. I heard that it was given to the Holy See by the heavenly god, and it was used to kill many Duke kindred in the Middle Ages. Hera looked at a white bone scepter wrapped in gold and gems in shock and murmured. That piece of bone had a long history, but it was still emitting a soft and holy white light. Its Dharma power was very strong, and it was incredible. The Dark Parliament is really good at plundering. Jiang Tian looked around. There were more than a dozen quasi-spirit treasures and spirit treasures, and there was a lot of energy fluctuation. Even with Hera's extraordinary knowledge, she only recognized 4 or 5 of them. What is this? Jiang Tian's pupils contracted, and he was immediately attracted by some orange-yellow translucent crystals. Jiang Tian walked over and scanned it with his immortal will, and he was overjoyed. It's explosive crystals. And there are so many of them. There are at least 500 kilograms. Jiang Tian's eyes were filled with joy. He had found some flame crystals in the treasury of blood god Barthel in France. When he used them to make the red flame fortune elixir and the foundation establishment elixir in the sword tomb, they worked well and were comparable to the three true fire. The explosive crystals contained powerful and violent energy, and they were even more powerful than the flame crystals. For example, if the flame crystals were like oil on earth, then the explosive crystals were like gunpowder. The explosive crystals were formed under very strict conditions, and they only existed on some planets with supergravity. Jiang Tian had never found them on Earth. Because of the violent energy they contained, these crystals were mostly used as fuel for large Dharma artifacts, and they could also be carved into Dharma artifacts and used as weapons. Jiang Tian thought of the Kuelian. Before leaving Sidoni, Jiang Tian checked the Kuelian system. Zhang Chenzhen was very talented in refining, and many of the memories in his mind had been restored. The Kuelian system he made was originally a small or medium-sized Dharma artifact, but because the hardness, melting point, and toughness of most materials on Earth were too low, he had expanded the Kuelian system by 10 times. But the effect was not discounted. There was still a problem, and that was the problem of fuel. Now some of the crystals they were using were relatively low-level crystals, and they could not achieve the desired effect in terms of range and explosion range. However, with the exploding crystal, the sunflower lotus system would be able to unleash its full destructive power. Jiang Tian recalled the many technical parameters of the Kuelian system in his mind. He was pleasantly surprised to find that it was highly compatible with the explosive crystals. He only needed to modify a few details of the settings, and the destructive power of the Kuelian system could be maximized. Thinking of this, Jiang Tian was overjoyed, and he put all the explosive crystals into the sky-devouring magic gourd without hesitation. In addition, Jiang Tian packed up all the Dharma artifacts, Dharma treasures, spiritual treasures, ancient books, gold, jade, and so on, and put them into the sky-devouring magic gourd. These things were originally his, and Jiang Tian would not let others take advantage of them. Anyway, the space in his sky-devouring magic gourd was big enough to fit all of them. Just as Jiang Tian was about to leave after collecting the spoils of war, a ray of light flashed by. Suddenly, a holy light flashed at the gate, and a black-robed priest suddenly appeared. He has reached the divine realm. Jiang Tian saw that the priest's eyes flashed slightly, and there was a hint of amazement. This man was only a low-level priest, but he had such a powerful cultivation, which did not match his status at all. Before this, Jiang Tian had traveled across Europe, settling accounts with the major families, and his divine sense had scanned many churches and monasteries left behind by the Holy See. However, those people did have a certain level of Dharma power. Even some bishops did not have such a powerful cultivation, and most of them were equivalent to the transcendent realm. But now, a black-robed priest who could be said to be in the divine realm had jumped out. The priest's gaze swept across the empty treasury, and his brows furrowed deeply. Then his eyes fell on Jiang Tian and he showed a kind smile. He bowed and said, "Sir, where are the treasures here?" "I took them." Jiang Tian saw that the priest was polite, so he told him the truth. "You took them?" The priest nodded, and then said earnestly, "Sir, these are the treasures left behind by the Holy See. You are not qualified to take them. Please return them to the Holy See immediately. God will forgive your sin of greed." "Are you kidding?" Jiang Tian laughed. "This is the treasury of the Covenant of Darkness. How did it become yours?" "Sir, you know about the Covenant of Darkness. You are not an ordinary person." A trace of vigilance appeared on the priest's face, and then he smiled bitterly. "But these treasures were indeed taken by the Covenant of Darkness from the Holy See. So, you should return them to the Holy See." Haha, there is an old saying in Wuxia. Every injustice has its perpetrator, every debt has its debtor. Since the Covenant of Darkness took them, why don't you ask them? Why are you asking me? Jiang Tian snorted. The priest's eyes suddenly turned cold, and his face was as gloomy as water. He said in a deep voice, "You are a child of God. You should be loyal and serve the Holy See." "Haha, I don't believe in God." Jiang Tian laughed out loud. He swung his sleeves, stood with his hands behind his back, and said, "What if I don't give them to you?" The priest was shocked. He stretched out his right hand, put his 5 fingers together, and pointed his middle finger to his forehead and shoulders. He said piously, "God, please forgive this person's sin. Amen." At this moment, Hera stared at the cross with special carvings on his chest. Her expression suddenly changed, and she pulled Jiang Tian aside. "Master Kong, this priest should be from the Ezekiel Monastery in Spain." Hera's eyes were filled with fear. "This monastery is one of the 9 monasteries under the Holy See. They claim to be the messengers and servants of God. They are powerful and cannot be offended. Why don't you just give them 1 or 2 treasures? So what if I don't return them? Does he dare to snatch them? I'll slap him to death." Jiang Tian could not be bothered with him, and he swaggered out the door. "Thief! How dare you steal the treasures of the Holy See? You are committing a crime and blaspheming God. Stop, you are not allowed to leave." The black-clothed priest's face suddenly became dignified, and he began to shout loudly. His huge spiritual power gushed out, creating a monstrous majesty. If it was an ordinary person or a believer, they would definitely be frightened. But this spiritual power was not worth mentioning to Jiang Tian. Jiang Tian ignored him, and his feet did not stop. "Arrogant and ignorant people! How dare you not listen to the orders of the messengers of God? Die for me!" The black-clothed priest's eyes were cold, and he suddenly attacked. He pulled out a sharp cross-light sword with both hands. The light sword was extremely hot, and it slashed toward Jiang Tian's back. Holy art, cross-light sword. This was the holy art of the Holy See, and it was very powerful. The holy light was brilliant and the sword was sharp, comparable to the strength of Zeus and Hera. One sword could cut an armored car. "Old man, you are very bad. How dare you sneak attack?" Jiang Tian's face was cold, and he did not even turn his head. His 7th metal true essence surged out like a storm, and the cross-light sword was shattered. The priest did not have the strength to resist at all. He suddenly spat out blood and flew more than 10 meters away, and fell to the ground like a dead dog. He lay on the ground, holding his chest and howling. He looked at Jiang Tian in disbelief and shouted angrily, You dare to resist the messengers of God. You can actually destroy the cross-light sword technique? You must be the devil." You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.